Chapter 2030. Ling Xiao had no other choice. He had to subdue this demon fetus. Otherwise, if this guy escaped from the lesser myriad thunderbolts formation, the entire mystic world would be doomed. This guy's growth rate was probably much more terrifying than his. Even if it wasn't strong enough now, it would become an existence more terrifying than a king of sovereigns sooner or later. Therefore, he had to stop this guy from escaping. He had to turn it into his own strength before it grew. His body gradually changed. The aura of the Imperial Heaven-Earth Queen emerged from his body. The Imperial Heaven God stood on the left, while the Earth Queen stood on the right. The two gods looked down at the demon fetus coldly and majestically. The Imperial Heaven-Earth Queen that Ling Xiao had obtained was an inheritance that truly created heaven and earth. The mystic world was vast, but everyone respected the Imperial Heaven-Earth Queen as their ancestor. The power of their ancestors deterred the demons. The Imperial Heaven God wielded the giant sword, while the Earth Queen wielded the scepter of the earth. They would never allow this demon fetus to pose any threat to the heaven and earth they had created. Power of the Earth Queen, shield of the earth. Ling Xiao released the power of the earth and formed the shield of the earth to stop the demon fetus from escaping. Power of the Imperial Heaven, firmament fist. Then Ling Xiao attacked. The terrifying firmament fist tore through space and appeared in the void. The green power of the Imperial Heaven was a natural counter to the demon fetus and suppressed its soaring demonic aura. As a result, the devil god formed by the devil fetus devil Qi instantly collapsed. The demon fetus screamed. How could it be willing to become a slave to a human? The remnant memories of the demon fetus made it think of itself as a terrifying demon king from the primordial age. It wanted to kill this human and destroy him. The demonic aura gathered again. A terrifying demonic fist blasted out. It collided with the firmament fist and released a terrifying explosive force. Boom! The firmament fist was ferocious, and the power of the Imperial Heaven was terrifying. The demonic fist was shattered again. The terrifying power of the Imperial Heaven entered the demon fetus body and started to disintegrate its consciousness. The demon fetus was injured. The demonic aura in the dark sky demonic ring shook violently. An even more terrifying demonic aura rushed out and was absorbed by the demon fetus. The demon fetus started to grow limbs. It looked more and more like a demon infant. At the same time, the demon god he condensed became even more powerful. "Foolish human, become my slave." A strange voice came out of the demon god's mouth, and a pair of pitch-black eyes looked at Ling Xiao. The terrifying demonic intent drilled into Ling Xiao's soul realm, attempting to take control of Ling Xiao's soul. At the same time, a huge demonic sword appeared in the demonic god's hand. The demonic sword was filled with the power of darkness, and a black vortex burst out. It was filled with a terrifying pressure and evil. The demonic god held the demonic sword and charged at Ling Xiao. He wanted to split Ling Xiao in half, shatter his soul, and turn him into the demonic fetus. In that instant, Ling Xiao actually felt his body tremble involuntarily. However, the terrifying power released by the Sky Tyrant martial spirit made him return to normal in an instant. Lord of Sky Tyrant. He was the only ruler of this world, and no one could make him submit. Royal heavenly strength, heaven raising, great sword. The terrifying great sword pierced through the void and collided with the demonic sword in the demonic god's hand. In that instant, he felt the shield of earth and the lesser myriad thunder array tremble violently. This small world was in danger of exploding. This power was truly too terrifying. The strength of the demon fetus was terrifying. It was even more terrifying than an ordinary rebirth realm warrior. If Ling Xiao had not borrowed the power of the lesser myriad thunder array, or even the entire myriad thunder immortal slaying array, he would not have been able to contend with it. This was also why Ling Xiao had to be fully prepared before refining the Black Sky demonic ring. Without these preparations, he would be dead for sure. Even if he did not die, he would become an inhumane demon. However, even with these preparations, he was still unable to contend with the demon fetus. Fortunately, he still had the Sky Tyrant martial spirit. The Sky Tyrant martial spirit seemed to be able to restrain all powers. Ling Xiao attacked with the heaven-raising greatsword and absorbed a large amount of demonic qi from the demon fetus for his own use. The black sky demonic ring fell to the ground, and the demon fetus began to tremble violently. Without the connection between him and the black sky demonic ring, he was like a snail that had lost its shell. He became extremely weak. Even so, the demon fetus continued to fight with Ling Xiao in the lesser myriad thunder array and the Sky Tyrant martial spirit. After countless collisions, Ling Xiao's power grew stronger. However, the power of the demon fetus was rapidly weakening. Perhaps feeling that it was about time, Ling Xiao released the 18 Hell Talismans and Dragon Talismans. The terrifying Blood Soul Talisman released a powerful suction force in the sky, absorbing and refining the endless demonic qi. Not only did Ling Xiao's combat strength grow stronger, but his fighting spirit also grew stronger. The demon fetus was only resisting stubbornly. His power grew weaker and weaker, but he did not seem to be willing to give up. The demonic intent also became more evil and crazy. Demon God's fury! A loud roar erupted from the mouth of the demon god. It was in the language of the demon world, but Ling Xiao could hear it clearly. He had obtained the memories of the 7 celestial demon kings. This was not fake. Naturally, he was very clear about the language of the demon realm. As the demon god roared, a huge mouth suddenly appeared in the void and bit at Ling Xiao. The demon fetus wanted to fight back. However, Ling Xiao seemed to have expected this. A cold smile appeared on his calm face. Power of Earth, Tree of World. Golden energy was released crazily, and a towering tree grew in an instant. The huge demonic mouth was blocked by this towering tree and was unable to bite. Instead, several roots pierced into the demonic mouth and began to crazily absorb energy. "It's over, demon fetus." He sneered and instantly entered the state of the heavenly demon incarnation. Then he opened the heavenly demon purgatory. A huge mouth appeared in the heavenly demon purgatory and swallowed the demon fetus whole. Blazing divine fire burned in the heavenly demon purgatory. The demon fetus let out a terrified roar, but it was of no use. At this moment, the power of the black sky demonic ring began to integrate into the heavenly demon purgatory. The heavenly demon purgatory was like a huge, bottomless whirlpool, completely absorbing everything. In the heavenly demon purgatory, there was endless fear of death, demonic intent, slaughter, destruction, and madness. These auras were mixed, but they were all the same. This was the real purgatory. A large amount of ancient killing aura, demonic aura, and dark power had been integrated. It was many times stronger than before. Finally, the black sky demonic ring was completely exposed. There was no bloody smell, only a black, shiny ring. Ling Xiao put it on his hand. The black sky demonic ring could enhance the power of all his dark attribute moves. At the very least, it could be improved by a level. Novice became small success became expert, and expert became great success. One could imagine the increase in power. Chapter 2031. As the devil black heaven ring was purified, the vicious devil embryo was also fully assimilated. As of this moment, Ling Xiao's heaven devil purgatory wasn't just a move. It was now connected to the devil world, and could draw upon the terrifying devil energy there for Ling Xiao to use and cultivate. This terrifying devil qi was absolutely fatal to the vast majority of martial artists. But to Ling Xiao, it was a huge source of nourishment. Ling Xiao's eyes slowly closed, and the image of the Imperial Heaven Queen vanished behind him. At the same time, he was building up power inside of him, as though he were on the verge of a breakthrough. At the same time, The purified energy released by the lesser myriad lightning's formation was released. Ling Xiao didn't have time to absorb it, so it would be a waste to just let it hang around in the air. Therefore, the 20 or so people from the Nine Heavens Palace would benefit immensely from it. Of course, in order to do so, they would have to go through a brutal trial. It would be like stepping into the border of the devil world, where they would have to fight the savage creatures there. They would have to temper their wills and endure the crazy trial. It was no trivial trial, and although each person would benefit differently, it was different. Some would benefit more, and some would benefit less, depending on how much ones could handle. If they could take advantage of this opportunity, then Cold Plum and Long Chin would definitely be the first to step into the life-seizing level. That way, they would be able to help Ling Xiao even more. And the stronger they were, the more authority they would have in the Heavenly Dynasty. Ling Xiao's plan would be even faster. The terrifying eruption of power lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Ling Xiao went from the 12th level of life-seizing to the 16th level. If it weren't for the fact that he was worried that his cultivation base wouldn't be stable enough, he would have continued to advance. Forcing himself to slow down, he began to focus on strengthening his cultivation base. He continued to temper himself and strengthen himself. He wanted to absorb everything he had and convert it into his own fighting prowess. On the 4th day, Ling Xiao stepped out of the lesser myriad lightning's formation and found that everyone in the Nine Heavens Palace was still working on their cultivation. Ling Xiao couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. It seemed that these people had all grasped this rare opportunity. Even Palace Master Jiu Tianming seemed to be about to make a breakthrough. He smiled and stepped out of the Empyrean Palace, heading in the direction of the skyscraping furnace. As his cultivation had soared, the skyscraper furnace was no longer that frightening. The black sky demon ring had been obtained from the skyscraper furnace. Ling Xiao absolutely believed that there would be even better things waiting for him inside. Of course, before he left a note for the others, explaining what he was going to do. He told the others not to worry and to focus on their cultivation. After Ling Xiao left Nine Heavens Palace, he headed straight for the skyscraper furnace. He had already explored this path, so he was very familiar with it. Ling Xiao was absolutely certain that the skyscraper furnace would give him a huge surprise. Most likely, the benefits he could get from the Black Sky Devil Ring would be on the same level as the Black Sky Devil Ring. In fact, if he could get it, he might actually break through the limits of the life-seizing level and step into the reincarnation level. At that time, he would no longer fear His Highness. Not only would he not fear him, but he could also drive him out of the White Tiger continent. Otherwise, if the Black Tortoise Temple stayed in the White Tiger continent, it would always be troublesome for Ling Xiao. Time was very tight because he was constantly worried that His Highness would personally go to the Heavenly Empire. If that was the case, even with the protection of the laws, His Highness could definitely destroy his foundation by himself. No matter what, the laws of the Dragon Phoenix continent were very close to the White Tiger continent, so His Highness' ability wouldn't be weakened too much. At least for now, in the Heavenly Empire, except for the Demon Wine Sword, no one could be this guy's opponent. He had to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger could he save his country, his family, and his friends. Although the skyscraper furnace was dangerous, it was closely related to the Black Sky Demon Ring. During this time, there was a great demon being imprisoned, so he might be able to obtain a lot of benefits. The skyscraper furnace was actually a huge furnace. Once, the human king used this furnace to refine the great demon, seriously injuring it. This caused the demon's cultivation and strength to greatly decrease. A large number of demons were directly refined into demon chi, making the skyscraper furnace the most suitable place for demons and demons to cultivate. Ling Xiao floated in the air, wearing the shadow armor and releasing the power of darkness. This allowed him to be like a demon, not being discovered by the other demons in the skyscraper furnace. Looking down from the sky, one couldn't see the bottom of the skyscraper furnace. Everywhere was filled with terrifying magma, as if it would never solidify. There were also pitch-black caves, and no one knew what was inside. From time to time, one could see some strange lights flickering. Ling Xiao observed with the Tai Chi eye and could confirm that these lights were magic treasures. Jiu Tianming said that the demon in the skyscraper furnace has the cultivation of the rebirth realm, but it's just a guess, because for so many years it seems that except for His Highness of the Black Tortoise Temple, no one else has entered this place. Therefore, except for His Highness, no one knows how strong the demon is. But Ling Xiao can't possibly ask that fellow, right? So, everything depends on himself. His body began to slowly descend. It wasn't good to stay in the air, as he would easily become a target. Landing on the skyscraper furnace, Ling Xiao discovered that this place was incomparably large. Although this wasn't his first time here, he was still somewhat shocked. This place felt much larger than Blackwind Canyon and the Myriad Demons' graveyard. Ling Xiao could even clearly sense many terrifying auras being released from within. There must be a demonic creature cultivating inside, just like the monsters he encountered in Blackwind Canyon. After more than 100,000 years, this skyscraper furnace had probably given birth to new demons. Of course, Ling Xiao didn't want to alarm these guys. It wasn't that he couldn't win, but that he didn't want to trouble himself. He hadn't forgotten why he had come here. He wasn't here to slay demons, but to find the sealed demon. There seemed to be an incredible treasure in the hands of the sealed demon. It was actually very easy for him to avoid other demons. The shadow armor, the shadow steps, and the aura he released was almost identical to that of the skyscraper furnace. Even if he walked past a demon, it wouldn't be able to sense him. After walking for about 10 minutes, the area in front of him suddenly widened. However, this time it was a huge lava lake. This was a lake formed of lava, not a lake formed by volcanoes. The boiling lava bubbled, and a powerful and terrifying aura came from within. Are these demons going to gather here today? Ling Xiao was perplexed and hid his body even more discreetly. There were too many demons here, and they were all very powerful. If he wasn't careful, he would be discovered. Chapter 2032. Ha ha ha, have you heard? During the White Tiger meet, the Black Tortoise Divine Palace lost many talents to the forces from the western region of the Black Tortoise continent. Suddenly, a demon with a horn on its head and a gust of wind with a sway of its body laughed out loud. That's right. The Black Tortoise Divine Palace's ruling position in the White Tiger continent will soon collapse. Now that the Black Tortoise Divine Palace has the Nine Heavens Palace as an opponent, it will be easier for us to eliminate them. But I didn't expect that Ling Xiao would win first place in the White Tiger meet. Another demon sneered. So what if he got first place? That brat will die sooner or later. However, that 100 Insects Demon King is really a piece of trash. I originally wanted to rely on him to eliminate Ling Xiao. Who would have thought that he would lose his life in the end? Lower your voice, are you courting death? That 100 Insects Demon King is young Master Senluo's brother. Don't let him hear you, or we will all die. After a moment of silence, he said, Let's not talk about this anymore. Young Master Senluo said that he would kill the Black Tortoise Divine Palace's highness here. We have to be prepared. That highness is not to be trifled with. Ling Xiao didn't know who young Master Senluo was, and was puzzled. But when he heard that young Master Senluo wanted to kill the Black Tortoise Divine Palace's highness here, he was even more surprised. He listened even more carefully, not willing to miss any details. Yes, that highness is not to be trifled with, but young Master Senluo has already prepared a big gift for that brat. Don't forget that this is the skyscraper furnace. Young Master Senluo has set up the Senluo Heaven skyscraper formation, with the terrifying evil chi of the skyscraper furnace as the foundation. There's no need to fear that highness can't be killed. Senluo Heaven skyscraper formation? Interesting. I heard from my master that this is a very powerful killing formation that requires the sacrifice of demonic creatures to activate. It seems that this group of stupid demons doesn't know much about this formation. Do they think that young Master Sunluo has good intentions? A group of idiots is about to be sacrificed. Hearing this, Ling Xiao felt that there was no need to continue listening. Although he didn't know who young Master Sunluo was, he was definitely someone who was not much weaker than the Highness. Dog biting dog, a mouthful of fur. He hoped that Mr. Sunluo and His Highness would fight to the death. Then he would be able to reap the benefits. After thinking about it, he no longer cared about the matters here. He turned into a pitch-black shadow and fell into the boiling lava. It kept sinking. The boiling magma didn't cause him any harm. Instead, the deeper he went, the more terrifying the energy kept rising, which made him feel a little pressured. This energy was extremely ferocious. It was even more terrifying than the dark sky demon ring. This caused the boiling lava to pounce on him as if it had turned into a devil. Ling Xiao's shadow armor creaked under the heat of the magma, as if it was about to melt. Ling Xiao felt as if his entire body was about to be swallowed by the lava. Humph! Heavenly demon incarnation. Heavenly demon purgatory. At the critical moment, Ling Xiao snorted coldly and transformed into a heavenly demon. He released the heavenly demon purgatory and swallowed the demonic will. Without the support of the demonic will, the lava was like a small spark that had fallen into the ocean. It had no effect whatsoever. As the terrifying demonic will merged with the heavenly demon purgatory, Ling Xiao felt his cultivation base growing stronger. Of course, the further one went into the life-seizing level, the harder it was to advance. That was especially true of the last 2 levels, which were 10 times more difficult than the previous 16 levels combined. Despite the constant influx of energy, Ling Xiao felt as if it were a small stream flowing into a desert. It didn't have much of an effect. However, even a drop of water could wear through stone. Ling Xiao didn't give up just because he couldn't see any hope of a breakthrough. No matter how small the stream was, it was still useful. It was just that he couldn't feel it, but as long as he kept pouring in, there was still a chance of a breakthrough. Boom! About half an hour later, Ling Xiao hit the ground. At that moment, the scene in front of him really gave him a fright. Less than 10 meters in front of him was a pool of crimson lava. In the huge magma pool, there was actually a huge monster bound by countless chains. As Ling Xiao stood there, he realized that he wasn't even as big as one of the monster's fingers. The monster had an enormous head, which made it look like a wild animal, but also like a vicious beast. In any case, it was extremely vicious. Beneath the head, it looked more like a human, except that it was covered with black scales that looked like dragon scales. It was a very strange sight. As Ling Xiao looked at the monster, it looked back at him. As it looked down at him, its eyes flickered with a strange red light. All of a sudden, a voice spoke into Ling Xiao's mind. It was a voice of authority and coldness. "Who are you, boy? How did you get past the demonic will lava and into the depths of the skyscraper furnace?" Ling Xiao looked over at the monster. If he wasn't mistaken, this was the monster who had spoken to him via soul power. "Are you the monster trapped here?" Ling Xiao didn't answer the other party's question. "How dare you? You haven't answered my question." The monster seemed to be angry that it was being ignored by a puny human. This made it very angry. "You're trapped like this, and you still want to scare me. Do you really think you can do anything with your current strength?" Ling Xiao had already observed that the monster had the terrifying strength of a rebirth state cultivator. It might even be stronger than Xianming and Zhou Qiandream. However, the chains on its body weren't ordinary chains. They were seals and shackles. After more than 100,000 years, they didn't show any signs of weakening. The mysterious queen of the 9 heavens was indeed worthy of her reputation. "Hee, good boy, you're really bold. Yes, I can't hurt you, but you can save me. I'll impart my demonic chi to you, as well as the most powerful martial arts of our demon race." Seeing that it didn't scare Ling Xiao, the monster knew that he wasn't someone who would be easily scared. It began to tempt him. "I say, don't waste your energy. Do you really think I'm a 3-year-old child? Give me some benefits, and I might be able to let you live a more comfortable life. Ling Xiao looked at the demonic creature in front of him. He was originally worried that he would encounter a terrifying battle, but now it seemed that the situation was much better than he had expected. The monster didn't say anything. It seemed to be thinking about how to trick Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao continued, "To tell you the truth, I've already set up the limitless skyscraping formation outside. This killing formation can sacrifice all monsters within the range of the formation. Of course, that includes you. I know you're very strong, but you're still sealed. Once the limitless skyscraping formation is activated, you won't have any chance. You'll be devoured by the killing formation bit by bit. In the end, you'll die like those of your kind who died in battle during the ancient times." Chapter 2033. They won't succeed. The demonic creature snorted and said, "Do you see the giant cauldron above my head? That's the core of the entire skyscraper furnace. It has a very famous name, the Human King Cauldron. There's no need to explain. You should know that it's a giant cauldron created by the greatest emperor in the history of your human race and his subordinates. It can smelt all living things. Its power is extremely terrifying. This Human King Cauldron is now in the hands of the Black Tortoise Temple's Highness. If those stupid demons inject their power, it will all be absorbed by this cauldron and transformed into the cultivation power of that Highness. It will help him to advance to the human immortal realm. Of course, I can also tell you that I lied to him. It's true that I helped him advance his cultivation, but once he advances to the human immortal realm, he will become my body, and I will use his body to escape from here." "Why are you telling me this?" Ling Xiao asked. "I know you want to deal with that Highness. I can help you. Anyway, he can't escape death." The demonic creature said, "Hee, do you think everyone is an idiot? Although I'm enemies with that Highness, I also know that if you're scheming against him, he must be scheming against you too. Once he breaks through to the human immortal realm, can you still live then?" Ling Xiao sneered. "You're really smart. Then let's take a gamble. Let's see if he kills me, or I replace him." The demonic creature smiled as if he had a card up his sleeve. Ling Xiao didn't say anything else. Instead, he raised his head and looked at the Human King Cauldron with excitement in his eyes. His Highness wanted to use this Human King Cauldron to cultivate to the human immortal realm. The demon in front of him wanted to use this Human King Cauldron to escape from the cage. The weight of this Human King Cauldron was really not low. But since I've encountered this, you guys can stop dreaming. This Human King Cauldron belongs to me, Ling Xiao. And you, demon, will also become my power. With your powerful power, I think my heavenly demon incarnation should be able to completely condense into a physical body. At that time, my combat strength will definitely soar. This Human King Cauldron looked very big, but Dharma treasures were all like that. Hovering in midair, it suppressed the demons below and released the noble and ancient aura of an emperor. There were various patterns drawn on it, but they were all related to emperors. The first painting was of the emperor going to court. The second painting was of the emperor going on an inspection tour. The third painting was of the emperor subduing demons. The fourth painting was of the emperor getting rid of rebels. And the fifth painting was of the emperor going on a campaign. The monarchs in each painting should be former sovereign personages. They seemed to possess a powerful might that could suppress everything. Ling Xiao did not even need to touch it to know that this was the true Human King Cauldron, and it was extremely powerful. Even the Essence Energy Thumb Ring and the Black Sky Demonic Ring, added together, could not compare to this Human King Cauldron. This was a primeval treasure jointly forged by the Human King and his human immortal subordinates. Exactly what grade of magic treasure was it? Even Ling Xiao was unable to see through it. While Ling Xiao was carefully observing the Human King Cauldron, the demon revealed a sneer as though his scheme had succeeded. Rumble. At this time, the entire skyscraper furnace seemed to tremble. Heaven and earth were shaking. Ling Xiao frowned and looked up. His Tai Chi eye saw through the layers of barriers and saw the activation of a terrifying killing array. The limitless skyscraper array has been activated. The demon also looked up and seemed to be a little excited. Lin Fan did not know what he was thinking, but he was sure that, like Ling Xiao, he was trying to use the activation of the limitless skyscraper array to do something. Something very special. Ling Xiao's idea was very simple. Get the human king cauldron. He did not care about the result of the battle between Child Sanluo and His Highness. As long as he could get the human king cauldron, he could destroy the demon and His Highness's plan. For him, this was simply killing many birds with one stone. Of course, it would be best if Child Sanluo and His Highness could fight until both sides were injured. In that case, he might be able to find an opportunity to kill His Highness. If His Highness was killed, Black Tortoise Temple would lose a top genius, and it would be easier to deal with them in the future. Boy, although I don't know what you are waiting for, you have no chance. Suddenly, the demon sneered and released a terrifying demonic aura. It wrapped Ling Xiao up and threw him into the human king cauldron. Ha ha ha, boy. Stay in the human king cauldron obediently. The limitless skyscraper array will completely refine you. I will inject a trace of demonic aura into your body. When His Highness absorbs this energy, he will be controlled by my demonic aura. The demon seemed very proud. Ling Xiao tried to move but found that it was useless. His body seemed to be bound in the human king cauldron and could not break free. Outside, His Highness had arrived at the skyscraper furnace, and Child Sanluo appeared almost at the same time. Child Sanluo was dressed in black and had a black snake symbol on his body. Ling Xiao could see it clearly through his Tai Chi eye. He had enough reason to judge that this guy should be from the Black Snake Demon Sect. Perhaps he was a genius from the Black Snake Demon Sect. He was younger than His Highness and looked to be in his 20s. The people from the Black Tortoise continent were really strong. He was only in his 20s, yet he was already a rebirth realm expert. Even Ling Xiao was jealous of him. He wanted to see the battle between His Highness and Child Sanluo, but the most important thing now was to escape. Clang! Ling Xiao tried to punch the human king cauldron, but his fist did not move the cauldron at all. He was not disappointed because the result was predictable. After all, this was a giant cauldron made by the human king. If it could even break him, it would be meaningless. It seems that I can only make a fuss about the limitless skyscraper array. Ling Xiao looked at the battlefield outside again. His advantage was that he was good at arrays. He could pry into the mystery of the limitless skyscraper array and then use the power of the myriad lightning immortal slaying array to save him. For this, he had to make a very perfect plan. Fortunately, there was still time. The demon thought that he was going to die, so he did not pay attention to him. His Highness and Child Sanluo were obviously in the middle of the battle and did not have time to pay attention to him. He had 2 trump cards. One was his familiarity with arrays, and the other was his martial soul of tyrant. As long as he used them well, not only could he save himself, but he could also turn the situation around and change the situation. He sat there cross-legged and began to release his soul power and internal force. The 2 forces gathered together and began to bombard each other. He hoped to use the flaws of the human king cauldron to inject his soul power and internal force into it. In this way, he might be able to control the human king cauldron. However, after repeated attempts for half an hour, he could not make any progress. That's right. I still have 2 forces of the human king's power in my body. Although I used the human king's power to activate the power of the myriad lightning extreme site, it was not consumed. Since this human king cauldron was made by the human king, it should be easier for me to use the human king's power to pave the way, right? Chapter 2034. Ling Xiao believed that the power of the human king could open the seal of the human king cauldron for him. Although this was just a guess, Ling Xiao felt that it should succeed. He released the power of the human king. The human king cauldron, which was originally incomparably sturdy and could not be penetrated by any inner force, actually activated a dense array. Ling Xiao's soul force and inner force, with the power of the Human King as the vanguard, seeped into the Human King cauldron and began to quickly control it. This Human King cauldron was a treasure and had its own artifact spirit long ago. If Ling Xiao wanted to completely control it, he had to subdue the artifact spirit or simply obliterate it. In the process of searching, he found the artifact spirit of the Human King cauldron. It was a middle-aged man in white who looked exactly the same as the Human King. At this time, the artifact spirit was confronting another demonic shadow. This demonic shadow was undoubtedly the power of that devil. For more than 100,000 years, this devil must have wanted to take the Human King cauldron for himself all the time, because as long as he controlled the Human King cauldron, not only could he escape, but he could also use the Human King's treasure to deal with humans. Outside, the battle was getting more and more intense, and the world was in turmoil. Ha 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 ha! The devil suddenly laughed crazily, because he saw hope. He saw that the plan he had planned for tens of thousands of years could finally bear the fruit of victory. Human King, oh Human King, what's the use of trapping me? You can't kill me. When I escape, it will be the end of the profound world. Don't worry, I will definitely turn all your descendants into ashes and turn the profound world into a world of ruins. This devil had a deep resentment because back then they came to the profound world to plunder the wealth and resources here. In the end, they encountered a powerful existence like the Human King. After a battle, the expeditionary army was defeated. He was also sealed here by the Human King. That was something that happened more than 100,000 years ago. He was not reconciled, really not reconciled. After being imprisoned for so long as he got out, he would definitely go on a killing spree. All the creatures in the profound world would die. Rumble. The limitless skyscraping array began to show its effect. Rolling divine lightning actually jumped on the chains that bound the devil. These divine thunders represented the activation of the formation. If it weren't for Ling Xiao, the scapegoat, then he might really have been refined by this array and become nourishment for that highness. He originally planned to lure a demon to be his scapegoat, but those demons were too easily frightened, and many of them died in the Human King cauldron. Only this brat who had just arrived seemed to have cultivated some special martial arts that could actually resist his endless demonic chi. This could also be considered as the god of the demon realm helping him. Brat, your name is Ling Xiao, right? Don't worry. After this demon king escapes, I will tell everyone your name and let them know that you are the one who released this demon king. Now, you can be this demon king's scapegoat. Don't worry. You will soon lose consciousness. You definitely won't feel much pain. The demon seemed very pleased with himself. Ling Xiao did not say anything. He had basically gained control of the Human King cauldron. The confrontation between the Human King cauldron's weapon spirit and the demon's demonic intent gave him a chance. When the two were very weak, they were swallowed by his tyrant martial spirit. It was impossible for him to let the weapon spirit exist. Although the Human King cauldron could only unleash its most terrifying power with its weapon spirit, Ling Xiao absolutely could not control it. No matter how powerful something that couldn't be controlled was, it would still be troublesome and a burden. Ling Xiao was not that stupid. After swallowing the weapon spirit and the demon's demonic intent, Ling Xiao did not say a word. No matter what happened outside, he must seize the time to completely fuse his soul and inner force with the Human King cauldron. He wanted to make this thing completely his. In this way, no matter who wanted to deal with him, it would be impossible. Success! Ling Xiao revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. Next, it's time for me to perform. Ling Xiao sneered. The Human King cauldron suddenly shook, and with his will, it fiercely pressed down on the demon. What? The demon was originally waiting for the battle between His Highness and Child Sanluo. The moment the battle between the two guys ended, he would use a special method to escape. By then, the power of the formation would have been completely vented into the Human King cauldron. He believed that Ling Xiao would have been blasted into pieces and become his scapegoat. He would not have to endure the pressure of the myriad skyscraping formation. He had a good plan, but unfortunately, the situation changed too quickly. The sudden change of the Human King Cauldron made him unable to react at all. The huge Human King Cauldron inverted and locked him down. On the other side, Ling Xiao had long since broken free. He coldly stared at the demon below the Human King Cauldron as it was struck by terrifying bolts of divine lightning. In the end, it died amidst miserable and disbelieving roars. Ling Xiao kept the Human King Cauldron, then broke through the air and floated in midair. "Who are you?" Child Sanluo was shocked. "Ling Xiao, it's you." His Highness's face also changed greatly. Of course, his face changed greatly because he thought that Ling Xiao had been devoured by the dark sky demonic ring and turned into an emotionless and inhumane walking corpse. However, Ling Xiao was here. Not only was there no problem, but his strength seemed to have greatly improved. Surprised, right? Both of you get out of here. This land of infinite thunders belongs to me. Ling Xiao sneered. He directly used the Human King Cauldron to attract the terrifying divine thunder of the Infinite Thunder's immortal slaying formation and blasted it toward the two. The Human King Cauldron might not be of much use in the outside world because his cultivation was too low to control it. However, in the land of infinite thunders, he could use it with ease. This was the opportunity left by the Human King for his descendants. Ling Xiao was lucky to get it. Therefore, in the land of infinite thunders, he was the ruler, the emperor, and no one could compare to him. "Boy, I'm from the mysterious snake demon sect. How dare you hurt me?" Child Sanluo shouted as he dodged in a panic. "Get out of here if you don't want to be hurt. This is not a place for you to stay." Ling Xiao wanted to deal with Child Sanluo and His Highness together, but they were not ordinary people. His main target now was His Highness. He wanted to seriously injure him. This way he would have more time to plan. "Let's go." Child Sanluo seemed to have noticed this. He tore the space apart with a few remaining subordinates and escaped. Obviously, they dared to come here because they had brought talismans or magic treasures that could teleport. Otherwise, they would not be able to teleport with their strength. "Ling Xiao, you deserve to die." His Highness roared as he fled toward the Black Tortoise Temple. "I'll kill you now." Ling Xiao was in hot pursuit. Terrifying bolts of divine lightning bombarded His Highness' body, one after another. His Highness spat out blood and was battered and exhausted. However, he was even more furious. Ling Xiao had ruined his perfect plan and destroyed his hope of becoming a human immortal. Chapter 2035. As far as he was concerned, if he could become a human immortal, then neither the White Tiger Continent nor the Black Tortoise Continent would be able to stop him. But now, Ling Xiao had ruined everything. He swore that he would crush Ling Xiao's bones and scatter his ashes. "Just you wait, Ling Xiao. I'm going to kill you." His Highness tore through the void and fled again. His strong voice of unwillingness reverberated in the sky. "Bah, that's the second time you've said something like that." Ling Xiao spat on the ground, chuckling coldly. Before, he had been afraid of the emperor, but now that he had the Human King Cauldron, he didn't need to fear him even if he had to leave the ultimate myriad lightning's place. Although he wasn't a match for the emperor, he was confident that he could escape. The harvest this time was really too big. Originally, he only wanted to get the Human Emperor Cauldron, but he didn't expect to get the complete energy of that demon. Now that the power was trapped in the Human King Cauldron, Ling Xiao was confident that it would be enough to push his cultivation base from the 16th to the 17th level of life seizing. Even in the middle of a vast desert, the power would be like an ocean, capable of burying the entire desert. Although he had enough power, he still needed the right opportunity to break through. It seemed it was time to get out of here. By the time Ling Xiao returned to the Nine Heavens Palace, Nine Heavens Dream and Nine Heavens Dew were already awake. After all, their cultivation bases were higher than the others, so they had quickly digested the benefits. As for the others, they were still working on their cultivation. According to Ling Zhao's estimations, it would take at least half a month for them to fully recover. Ling Xiao couldn't afford to wait that long. He needed to get back to the Heavenly Dynasty as quickly as possible and make preparations to deal with the Emperor. The Emperor had already suffered 2 losses at his hands, and there was no way he was going to let the matter rest. "Let Lu escort you," Nine Heavens' dream said. "It won't be safe on the way." She knew that she couldn't change Ling Zhao's mind, so all she could do was offer Ling Xiao the best protection she could. After this cultivation, both her and the Nine Heavens Du's cultivation base had improved. The Nine Heavens Du now had the strength to fight against Xianming. It would be very safe for her to become Ling Zhao's bodyguard. "There's no need. I can protect myself. The most important thing now is Nine Heavens Palace. With Sister Lu here to assist the palace master, it will definitely be safer." Ling Xiao wasn't trying to be brave. He had obtained the Mortal King Cauldron and wasn't afraid of being pursued by Rebirth Realm martial artists. At most, he could just flee. Furthermore, exchanging blows with Rebirth Realm experts would improve his fighting prowess and perhaps even push his cultivation base all the way to the 18th level of life seizing. At this point, Ling Xiao suddenly thought of something. "Palace Lord, I've always been very confused. What exactly does the Rebirth Realm mean? Could it be that we really have to reincarnate?" This was a very crucial question. Ling Xiao hadn't considered it in the past because his cultivation was too far away from the Rebirth Realm, so he didn't really care about it. But things were different now. He was already in the 16th level of life seizing and very close to the Rebirth Realm. Perhaps if he encountered another good fortune, he would be able to break through. That was something he needed to know. Only then would it be easier for him to break through. Actually, there are 2 ways to break through to the Rebirth Realm, Nine Heavens Du said. Jiu Tianmeng asked Ling Xiao to sit down, and then said slowly, "The first method of advancement is also the most common method. Most people will choose this method. It's the most common method. However, after breaking through to the Rebirth Realm, the body will undergo a complete transformation, both inside and out. Within the Rebirth Realm, every time you break through, you will undergo a transformation. That way, by the time you reach the 10th cycle of reincarnation, your body will be close to the level of a human immortal and will undergo a qualitative transformation. Although that method is relatively safe, it doesn't give you enough power. That's the downside." "What about the other way?" Ling Xiao asked. "The other way is very similar to the true cycle of reincarnation," Jiu Tian Dream replied. "When you break through to the Rebirth Realm, you will experience the true cycle of reincarnation. Remember, it's reincarnation, not reincarnation. Therefore, when you enter your mother's womb, you will end up somewhere in the outside world. You will retain your memories, your martial soul, your martial disciplines, and even your body's toughness. However, your cultivation base will return to 0. After experiencing the cycle of reincarnation, your cultivation speed will be shockingly fast. In fact, it might be several times faster, or even dozens of times faster. You will be back to the Rebirth Realm in a very short time. The benefit is that, with each level of cultivation, your internal power will increase by at least 10%. In some cases, it might even increase by 50 or 60%. That's a lot better than ordinary breakthroughs. Because of that, the so-called geniuses you see on the streets are actually Rebirth Realm cultivators who have undergone reincarnation. The most terrifying thing about such people is that they can kill Rebirth Realm cultivators as Yin-Yang Realm cultivators. Often, they can directly jump a super realm and kill their opponents. You have to be careful when you meet a suspected Rebirth Realm cultivator. There aren't any in the White Tiger continent, but in the Black Tortoise continent, such people might appear. Usually, those who choose this reincarnation method are extremely confident in themselves. Moreover, they are geniuses with extremely high talent and comprehension. There must be a downside to this method, right? Ling Xiao asked. It has a lot of advantages. because once the reincarnation ends and you recover your cultivation base, your strength will be much stronger than other cultivators of the same realm. However, the downside is also very obvious. When you reincarnate, it's very easy for your opponent to harm you. Therefore, those who choose this reincarnation method will directly change their appearance and hide any martial disciplines they have used. They won't expose their identity until they know the basics of their cultivation base or completely recover. Ju Tian Dream explained. All right, I understand. However, after reincarnation, the age will return to 0. Like me, won't I never grow up? Ling Xiao said helplessly. Ju Tian Dream shook his head and said, that's nothing. Rebirth realm cultivators grow faster. Basically, in a year, they can recover to around 20 years old. Those who are not 20 years old will recover to their original age. For someone like you, you will naturally recover to your original age. This kind of thing is very common in the mystic world, especially in the Black Tortoise continent. It will become more and more common. Therefore, the parents of children will not find it strange and think that this is a normal phenomenon. Moreover, because such children will usually have very high achievements when they grow up, commoners who don't know the truth even think that this is a sign of a genius. Of course, the cultivators who know the truth will also feel happy to have such a child. After all, they have picked up a child who will definitely cultivate to the rebirth realm. However, there are also some cultivators who are worried that their children will betray them when they grow up. Therefore, when their children grow up by leaps and bounds, they will give them special medicine that can make their children lose their original memories. Chapter 2036. Jiu Tianming sighed and said, if you really meet a crazy parent who causes their children to lose their memories, then you're really out of luck. So many rebirth realm cultivators will quietly leave after reincarnating, and there are also some who are cruel enough to kill their own parents. So the danger level is extremely high. This is why most rebirth realm cultivators still choose the safe way to advance. In order to let Ling Xiao fully understand the process of advancing in the rebirth realm, Ju Tianming explained in detail, afraid that Ling Xiao would make a mistake. Many thanks for Palace Master's guidance, I understand. If Ling Xiao had to choose, he would definitely choose the method that would make him stronger, and that was reincarnation. Although it was risky, if he succeeded, he would be much stronger than other cultivators of the same realm. He believed that those talented and courageous martial artists would definitely make the same choice. If he didn't do this, then he would definitely fall behind others in the future. If he fell behind by one step, then he might fall behind forever. All right, I've asked all the questions, so I should leave. When Ling Xiao stepped out of Nine Heavens Palace, the Palace Master of the Nine Heavens Dream Divine Guard and Nine Heavens do send him out of the myriad lightning extreme place. Be careful, Ju Tianming reminded. Black Tortoise Temple won't let you return to the Heavenly Dynasty Empire. I already expected this. But if it's just me, nothing will happen. I'll leave my friends to the two seniors. Ling Xiao alone could definitely escape the pursuit of Black Tortoise Temple. Not to mention that his cultivation wasn't weak, and he also had an ancient treasure like the Human Emperor Cauldron. Although the Human Emperor Cauldron couldn't display the same power as it did in the Myriad Lightning Extreme Place, it could definitely protect him. Don't worry, they're very safe in Nine Heavens Palace. Ling Xiao believed this. The Nine Heavens Palace was located in an independent space. The Black Tortoise Temple had been searching for it for tens of thousands of years, but they couldn't find it. It was impossible for them to find it while Ling Xiao was gone. Besides, even if they did find it, Nine Heavens Palace didn't have many people, but their strength wasn't weak. Palace Master, Sister Lu, you can go back. I'll be on my own, Ling Xiao said with a smile. I'd better send you out of the Black Tortoise Divine Palace's sphere of influence. Otherwise, it's hard to guarantee that they won't make a move here. Jiu Tianming really treated Ling Xiao as one of his own. His care and concern for him was meticulous. Fine. Ling Xiao did not refuse any further. Only when he 9 heavens dream and 9 heavens do were out of the black tortoise temple's range of control did they bid farewell to each other. Along the way, Huang Xiaolong had indeed sensed that someone was following him, and he was certain that it was the black tortoise temple's people. That's right, he had killed Song Mofeng and forced His Highness to retreat twice, causing His Highness to lose face. It was impossible to say that the black tortoise temple would not target him. Let's go. Ling Xiao cupped his hands and said, Yes. Zhu Tianming nodded and said, I believe in the vision of the old palace master. Since she chose you, you will definitely become a top expert of the White Tiger continent in the future. Good luck. You have to remember Sister Lu. Although we haven't been together for long, Sister Lu really likes you. 9 heavens do giggled. Ling Xiao nodded. I won't forget. Sister Lu saved my life once. How could I forget? Until we meet again. With that, Ling Xiao turned and disappeared into the forest, disappearing from 9 heavens dream and 9 heavens Du's field of vision. Meanwhile, in the heavenly penitentiary temple, send people after Ling Xiao immediately. If they can capture him alive, that would be for the best. If not, kill him. Bound Star's grudge against Ling Xiao was probably even deeper than Her Highness. After all, Ling Xiao had been locked up in the heavenly penitentiary, and yet he had received the legacy of the old empress of the 9 heavens palace. That was something he could not tolerate. It was an insult to him and to the heavenly penitentiary temple. Understood. A dozen or so life-seizers rushed out of the temple in the direction Ling Xiao had left. Ling Xiao had been running for several kilometers when he suddenly noticed a group of people up ahead. He couldn't help but start. Upon closer inspection, he realized that they were from the Fan Clan, Heavenly Dragon Trading Company, and Medicine King Pavilion. Ji Qing, Medicine King Sun Sa, and Fan Ruohai were all there. Aya, Brother Ling, we've been waiting for you for a long time. Fan Ruohai had also noticed Ling Xiao and hurried over to greet him. Ling Xiao had been in the 9 heavens palace for quite some time, and they had also been waiting here for quite some time. That said, it was also because of Ling Xiao's dazzling performance at the White Tiger meet. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so patient with Ling Xiao. Young Master Fan, do you have business with me? Ling Xiao asked, looking warily at the group. Brother Ling, there's no need to be so nervous. Did you forget what I said at the White Tiger meet? Whoever takes first place will get the Fan Clan's secret recipe, reincarnation soup. Fan Ruohai smiled. To tell the truth, Ling Xiao hadn't taken the matter to heart. Although he was looking forward to the reincarnation soup as well, he still felt that Fan Ruohai was purposely angering Feng Fei. He never expected Fan Ruohai to actually wait here to give him the recipe. Of course, he couldn't ask for more. So young Master Fan still remembers that. How rare. But are you sure you want to give me your Fan Clan's secret recipe? Ling Xiao asked with a smile. Of course. Although I, Fan Ruohai, don't say that I'm righteous beyond belief, I still keep my word. Otherwise, my Fan Clan wouldn't have reached this level after all these years. Fan Ruohai spoke resolutely. As he spoke, he handed a piece of memory metal to Ling Xiao. The secret recipe and recipe for the reincarnation soup are all inside. Take note of everything as well. Brother Ling, use it well. This is our Fan Clan's best recipe. It can help life seizers reach the rebirth realm. Even after reaching the rebirth realm, you can use it to increase your reincarnation energy. Many thanks. Ling Xiao's feelings towards Fan Ruohai had always been complicated. The two of them could be said to be using each other, but their relationship was still very good. Compared to Tianhai tyranny and Feng Fei, this person knew how to conduct himself better. You've finished speaking. It's our turn. At this time, Ji Qing and Sun Zai walked over. My daughter thanks you for taking care of her. Although I, Sun Zai, have some enmity with you, I don't owe you any favors this time. Here. So speaking, he took out a low-level storage ring and handed it to Ling Xiao. Inside are the ingredients for making the reincarnation soup. It should be enough to make about 10 servings. It'll depend on your success rate. Sun Zai had long thought of a gift for Ling Xiao as thanks. He discussed it with Fan Ruohai. Although the recipe for the reincarnation soup was good, the ingredients were hard to find. It was better to give some to Ling Xiao. Many thanks to the Pill King. Ling Xiao wasn't a stubborn person. Although he'd had some conflicts with Sun Zai back in the Divine Phoenix continent, it wasn't a deep grudge. Chapter 2037. No need. This is what you deserve. I'll take my leave first. Medicine King Sun gave Ling Xiao a gift of thanks and left with his men. Ji Qing walked over again and asked, "Why didn't Luoyu come back with you?" Ling Xiao smiled and said, "Luoyu is lucky to have joined the Nine Heavens Palace. Her strength has soared. When the time comes, Senior will definitely be pleasantly surprised." Sure enough, Ji Qing sighed with emotion. In the past, I wanted to send Luoyu to a sect in the western region of the Black Tortoise continent. Unfortunately, they only wanted geniuses and didn't take a fancy to my daughter. The Nine Heavens Palace is good. A sect that has been passed down for more than 100,000 years. Even if it has fallen, it still has very powerful martial arts. Thank you, Ling Xiao. You've done something that even I couldn't do. Senior, you flatter me. I just did something that was within my ability. Ling Xiao smiled. I don't have anything to give you, but there are 2 things that I can help you with. Ji Qing said. First, our Heavenly Dragon Trading Company has investigated the recent movements of the 5 major forces in the western region. We found that the reason why they came to the White Tiger continent this time is very likely related to a secret realm on the sea. Oh, Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment. He had asked the demon wine sword to investigate this matter. He didn't expect to know about it from Ji Qing. Unfortunately, we still don't know where the secret realm is. We have to investigate further. Ji Qing said, Second, our Heavenly Dragon Trading Company will take care of your safety in the White Tiger continent and the Dragon Phoenix continent. My safety is fine. I just hope that the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company can help when my Heavenly Empire is in danger. Ling Xiao wasn't worried about his safety at all. It wasn't that he was careless, but he knew that he didn't have to be afraid. On the contrary, the Heavenly Empire might be facing the attack of the 4 great empires of the White Tiger continent and the Jingyi sect. He had to be alert. That's not a problem. Princess Yun can help you at any time in the Dragon Phoenix continent. Although our Heavenly Dragon Trading Company usually doesn't side easily and basically maintains a neutral position, it's still possible to secretly help the people we like. Ji Qing nodded his head. Thank you very much. Ling Xiao was very clear that in addition to strength, one also needed financial resources to fight a war. If they could obtain the support of the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company, then their Heavenly Empire's unification of the White Tiger continent would be just around the corner. Then, I'll take my leave first. If you need any help, you can ask any of the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company's branches. I'll definitely know. Ji Qing cupped his hands before bidding farewell. Although he missed his daughter had her own path to walk, and he had his own path to walk. There was no need to see him for the time being. Daughters had to grow up and learn to be independent. Brother Ling, if you want to return to the Heavenly Dynasty Empire, you'll have to pass through the Heavenly Sea Empire. Why don't we travel together? Fan Ruohai wasn't in a hurry to leave. That's fine. With you around, we can save a lot of trouble. Ling Xiao nodded. The Fan clan was extremely powerful in the Tianhai Empire and was the second most powerful clan after the Tianhai clan. Even if the emperor wanted to touch his clan, he would have to think twice. Following Fan Ruohai, Ling Xiao didn't have to deal with small problems. Set off. Fan Ruohai called out to the rest of the Fan clan, and they all set off. One of them looked at Ling Xiao with some trepidation. This was Fan Ruohai's younger brother, Fan Roland. He had once looked down on Ling Xiao. However, he had watched as Ling Xiao grew from a nobody to the champion of the White Tiger meet. Moreover, The 5 great powers of the western regions and 9 heavens' palace fought over him to become their disciple. This was an honor that he, Fan Rolin, would never be able to obtain in his lifetime. He was jealous, but more than that, he felt admiration and admiration. From looking down on Ling Xiao in the past to reverence now, he hadn't changed. The only one who had changed was Ling Xiao. Because Ling Xiao had become powerful, his attitude had changed. It was that simple. Along the way, with the Fan clan clearing the way, nothing special happened. However, the closer they got to the Heavenly Sea Empire, the stranger the atmosphere became. There was an indescribable sense of oppression. Ling Xiao felt as if something had happened, and it was something he didn't want to see. Upon entering Heavenly Sea City, Ling Xiao discovered that the citizens seemed to have a natural hostility toward him. When they looked at him, it was as if they were looking at an enemy. There was anger, but there was also fear. Presumably, it was because Ling Xiao had taken first place in the White Tiger meet, causing the White Tiger continent to lose face. As citizens of the White Tiger continent, they naturally couldn't be happy. After thinking this through, Ling Xiao didn't pay them any more attention. After all, their standpoints were different. It was normal that they didn't like him. It wasn't strange. He didn't plan to stay in Heavenly Sea City for long. After bidding farewell to Fan Ruohai, he planned to return to the Heavenly Empire. In any case, they didn't welcome him. However, at that moment, the sound of a gong suddenly rang out on the streets of Heavenly Sea City. There were also a few prison wagons parading through the streets. The prisoners in the wagons only revealed their heads. The people on both sides of the street were using eggs, rotten vegetable leaves, and even stones to smash the prisoners. Some of the prisoners' heads were already smashed open. When they were captured, their internal energy was sealed. If their bodies weren't tough enough, they would definitely be injured. At first, Ling Xiao didn't care. However, when the prison wagons got closer, a towering rage rose in his chest. The prisoner in the first prison wagon was actually his life and death comrade-in-arms, his good brother Qin Hua. He had saved Qin Hua in the Divine Phoenix capital and established a deep friendship on the battlefield. The two of them had fought together on the battlefield against the Black Crow Empire's army. Through thick and thin, through life and death, they were even closer than blood brothers. But now, Qin Hua was locked in a cage. His shoulder blades were pierced with chains, and his cultivation was completely lost. Although Qin Hua's cultivation wasn't too high and was stronger than Ling Xiao in the past, he had just broken through to the Yinyang realm. However, after cultivating for so long and experiencing so many hardships, his cultivation was actually crippled just like that. His shoulder blades were even pierced. How could Ling Xiao not be angry? The remaining prisoners in the prison wagons were all Qin Hua's subordinates. Although Ling Xiao didn't recognize them, he was certain that they were soldiers of the Heavenly Empire. He was participating in the White Tiger meet in the Myriad Thunderbolt's desolate ground, but his good brother and soldiers were being paraded through the streets. Good. Really very good. Heavenly Sea Empire, you really are capable. Suddenly, Ling Xiao stood in front of the convoy and released a terrifying aura that blotted out the sky. Today, he would kill anyone who dared to block him. His anger had already been ignited. With a light touch, it would erupt like a volcano. However, someone just had to come and touch his bad luck. Audacious fanatic, don't think that you can do whatever you want in the Heavenly Sea Empire just because you took first place in the White Tiger meet. These are wanted criminals, spies of the Empire. What do you want? Chapter 2038. Your Majesty, he's talking nonsense. Qin Hua shouted. We were just here to give you a report, but they didn't give us a chance to explain. They pierced our shoulder blades and crippled our cultivation bases. When Qin Hua saw Ling Xiao, a trace of vitality finally appeared on his despairing and sorrowful face. Whack! The whip lashed across Qin Hua's face. It was the third stage, life-seizing general. Blood trickled down his face. Even if Qin Hua's cultivation base hadn't been crippled, it would have been difficult for him to defend himself. Now that his cultivation base had been crippled, There was no way he could defend himself. The wound on his face was horrifying and glaring. "Who gave you permission to speak, you traitor?" The general said coldly. Then he looked at Ling Shao and said, "We suspect you of colluding with the enemy and trying to start a rebellion. Get out of the way, or we'll arrest you too. Are you ready?" Ling Shao asked, suddenly calm. It was almost as if he didn't feel any anger at all. But this sudden calmness made Fan Ruohai, who was standing beside him, feel a kind of terror and chill. Fan Ruohai knew that when a person's anger reached its limit, they would become strangely calm. Ready for what? AIG! Before the general could finish speaking, he let out a blood-curdling scream. "My arm! My arm!" He used his right hand to whip Qinhua, and as a result, Ling Shao directly crippled his right hand. "Kill him! Kill him! Don't let this traitor escape, Heaven Sea City." The general clutched at his wound, terrified and enraged. All of a sudden, hundreds of experts flew out from the alleyway, all of them life-seizers. They wore the battle robes of the crocodile god, and were clearly the crocodile devil guard. "Brother Ling, get out of here. It's a trap!" Fan Ruohai shouted. He had no idea what had happened to Ling Shao in the Nine Heavens Palace, nor did he know how high Ling Zhao's cultivation base had risen. Seeing the crocodile devil guard lying in ambush, Fan Ruohai knew that the Heaven Sea King was determined to kill Ling Shao. Therefore he shouted anxiously, "Young Master Fan, today's matter has nothing to do with your Fan family. Step down. Since the Tianhai Empire wants to destroy our nation, I will fulfill their wish." Ling Zhao's voice was bone-chilling, as if it had been tempered countless times in a cold purgatory. "Your Majesty is valiant. However, the martial artists of the Celestial Empire saw hope. None of them had ever imagined that their Emperor of Heaven would be able to cripple a third-stage life-sizer so easily. After all, they had watched the live broadcast of the White Tiger meet. Ling Shao had fought against the second-stage life-sizer Heavenly Ocean Tyranny, and had even gone all out. But today they saw hope. Their Heavenly Emperor was even more powerful than they had imagined. Kill the traitors and defend the glory of the White Tiger continent. On both sides of the street, the commoners of the Heavenly Sea City were also shouting loudly. They even pounced towards the prisoner carriage, wanting to execute the people of the Heavenly Imperial Empire on the spot. Ling Zhao's cold eyes revealed a demonic killing intent. Anyone who dares to touch the warriors of the Heavenly Imperial Empire will die. He didn't want to attack the commoners because he had his own principles. But if they really did hurt his people, he would turn into a fiend devil and kill them all. He wouldn't show any mercy. However, no one listened to him. Their thinking was simple. If they killed Ling Shao, the White Tiger meat's first place would go to their crown prince, Heavenly Ocean Tyranny. They even made Fan Ruohai their target. They believed that Fan Ruohai was in cahoots with Ling Shao. Crazy! They've all been brainwashed by that Tianhai sovereign. Fan Ruohai frowned. From the look of it, the imperial family of the Heavenly Sea Empire wanted to take advantage of the hatred of Ling Shao to uproot the Fan clan. "Brother Fan, don't worry about me. Go back and see what's going on with the Fan clan." Ling Shao glanced at Fan Ruohai. "My apologies." Fan Ruohai was burning with anxiety. If the Heavenly Sea Empire mobilized these crazed commoners to deal with the Fan clan, then the Fan clan would truly be consigned to eternal damnation. They would either have to escape from the Heavenly Sea Empire, or they would have to slaughter the commoners. Regardless of which choice it was, they would never be able to establish themselves in the Heavenly Sea Empire. This move was truly too vicious. Too vicious, although Fan Ruohai had long since expected that the other side wouldn't take the normal path. He hadn't expected them to be so vicious. After Fan Ruohai left, Ling Shao took advantage of the situation to save Qinhua and the other 5 Heavenly Imperial soldiers. These people had come to find him. He absolutely couldn't let them die in the enemy country, and for no reason at that. Golden Crow, transit of the sun. Ling Shao coldly watched all of this. He pointed with his right hand, and a soaring sword energy broke through the air. The sword energy soared into the air, transforming into a giant golden crow that charged towards the crowd. Miserable screams immediately rose and fell. His way of thinking was different from Fan Ruohai's. Whoever wanted to kill him, he would kill them. He had never thought of being merciful. When facing an enemy, being merciful would only make one die faster. Doomsday. It truly was a scene of doomsday. As Ling Zhao's cultivation increased, the might of the golden crow ascending the sun became extremely terrifying. When he released it, even Ling Xiao himself was frightened. The entire street was turned into charcoal. Apart from a few of his own people, not a single person was left alive. This included the general whose arm had been cut off. Ling Xiao didn't even have time to ask what that fellow's name was before he was completely melted by the terrifying heat. Let's go! Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment. Then he fled in the direction of the Fan estate. The Fan estate was a power that could not be ignored. If he could unite them, then the Heavenly Empire would have the support of a powerful clan when it unified the White Tiger continent in the future. One mustn't forget that the Fan estate's influence wasn't limited to the Heavenly Sea Empire. They had businesses in the 4 great empires and the Jingyi school's sphere of influence. This was a true business empire. By the time Ling Xiao arrived at the Fan estate, it had already become a sea of fire. Everything had been destroyed, and Fan Ruohai was holding a corpse in his hands, howling in pain. Everyone who had been with him was dead, including his younger brother, Fan Roland. There had been an ambush, and the corpse he held in his arms was none other than his younger brother's. In the blink of an eye, no one had any time to react. No matter how strong Fan Ruohai was, there was no way he could save his younger brother. His eyes were bloodshot, and he pulsed with the terrifying power of a life-sizer. He wanted to slaughter everyone in the imperial house of the Heavenly Sea Empire. Kill them all. 18th level life-sizer. Incredible. This bastard was so close to reaching the rebirth level. Fan Ruohai had always been mysterious and enigmatic. In the past, Ling Xiao had assumed that he was only a bit stronger than Heavenly Sea tyranny. After all, he was only in his early 30s. But now that his cultivation base was so close, Ling Xiao's Taiji, I could see Fan Ruohai's true cultivation base. An 18th level life-sizer, even higher than Yang Qi's own cultivation base. This guy had hidden himself quite well. Chapter 2039. Kill. Fan Ruohai began to slaughter like a madman. The people surrounding him were slaughtered one by one, their blood dyeing the sky and the sunset crimson. The earth was bleak. The entire Skycea city was filled with the thick stench of blood. How dare you! Just as Fan Ruohai was in the middle of his killing spree, a voice rang out. As this person roared, he sent a palm strike at Fan Ruohai. Scram! Fan Ruohai didn't even look to see who it was. He turned around and sent out a palm strike. However, the terrifying palm strike sent him flying, causing him to spit out several mouthfuls of blood in the air, until someone caught him. Run! Ling Xiao saw that this person was a first-level rebirth realm cultivator. This person should be the dean of the Skycea Academy, Tianhai Nuo. Although he wasn't as strong as the Skycea King, he was still terrifying. With Fan Ruohai's cultivation, he was definitely no match for him. Thus, Ling Xiao didn't plan to waste any more time. Since he had already saved his own people, the best course of action was to run. He shot through the air with incredible speed, but Tianhai Nuo was just as fast in pursuit. "Want to run? Die here for this seat, you two demons." Tianhai Nuo leaped and instantly closed in on Ling Xiao. A rebirth realm martial artist had already grasped a tiny bit of the time ultimacy. Although it was really insignificant, it was enough for them to raise their speed to the limit. Even Ling Xiao couldn't be faster than them, unless Ling Xiao also broke through to the rebirth realm. Kill! Ling Xiao shielded Fan Ruohai and the others behind him as he stabbed out with his sword. The blood-red crimson blood sword pierced through the air and slammed into Tian Hai Nua's palm. Ling Xiao retreated 10 steps, feeling like his entire body was about to fall apart. Tian Hai Nua didn't retreat a single step. He simply stood in place, slightly obstructed by Ling Xiao. Fuck, this rebirth realm cultivator is too terrifying. Fan Ruahai, you're not dead yet, right? Take my people and run. I'll bring up the rear. Ling Xiao knew that he couldn't fight recklessly, so he roared at Fan Ruahai. Got it. Fan Ruahai had gradually calmed down. Although he wanted to take revenge, he was helpless in the face of someone who was much stronger than him. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, gave him a huge shock. Ling Xiao's cultivation was inferior to his, but his battle prowess was actually stronger than his. Letting Ling Xiao stay behind was the best choice. So he didn't think too much before agreeing, and he led Qin Hua and the others away swiftly. Although he was injured, it was only a light injury. As long as he did not encounter a rebirth realm martial artist, he was not afraid. Brat, if you let them go, then I'll kill you first, and then I'll kill them. In any case, they won't be able to escape far. Tian Hai Nua stared coldly at Ling Xiao and said, You killed our Skyse Academy's most outstanding disciple, the sacred sword of the wind demon, and destroyed our hope. This seat will use you as a sacrifice to him. Don't you understand what happened just now? Although I'm not as good as you, you can dream on if you want to kill me. If your sovereign kings attack together, it might be possible. Ling Xiao said with a smile. There's no need for His Majesty to personally deal with a brat like you. Tian Hai Nua said coldly, You think too highly of yourself. You think you're gold. But in reality, you're just a pile of shit. Haha, fine. Then go ahead and kill me. I'll take my leave first. Ling Xiao definitely didn't want to continue fighting. Although he didn't know where the Sky Sea Sovereign King was or what he was doing, if he returned now, then they would be in even more danger. So he had to leave as soon as possible. He retreated as he fought. Do you think you can escape? Tian Hai Nua pursued like a madman, wreaking havoc along the way. Many houses were destroyed. His attack could even destroy a small city, to say nothing of a house. Ling Xiao, however, was as nimble as a fish, dodging from time to time and bumping into him. Tian Hai Nua repelled him, but he couldn't injure him. Instead, he allowed him to run even further. After 2 hours of chasing and stopping, they actually reached the seaside. Brother Fan, let's work together to kill this old brat and then leave. The airship had already taken off, but Tian Hai Nua was still in hot pursuit. Ling Xiao was worried that this old man would attack the airship, so he naturally wouldn't agree. He might as well harden his heart. He might not be able to deal with Tian Hai Nua alone, but if he joined forces with Fan Ruahai, they might actually have a chance. Fine. Fan Ruahai was already fuming from the pursuit, and he was a smart man. He knew that being chased like this was no solution. Rather than that, he might as well take the initiative to attack. This was the wiser course of action. Ha ha ha! 2 ants want to overturn the heavens? What wishful thinking! Tian Hai Nua was also tired of the chase. Since these 2 fellows wanted to stay and die, he couldn't be happier. Even ants can cultivate and achieve great results. I don't even know how you're a dean. You don't even know this. Ling Xiao stopped fleeing and suddenly transformed into his Imperial Heaven avatar. His massive body in the air had the absolute advantage. Imperial Heaven strength. Firmament fist. The fist tore through the void, hurtling toward Tian Hai Nua like a falling star. Its power was terrifying, and its pressure was also immense. Tian Hai Nua couldn't help but frown. At this point, Fan Ruahai sprang into action, summoning an enormous bronze gate behind him. Ancient martial soul, bronze gate. Seal all, destroy all! Fan Ruahai roared, and the bronze gate opened, sending sealing power out to envelop Tian Hai Nua. In that moment, Tian Hai Nua's power level dropped significantly. At the same time, Ling Xiao's firmament fist slammed into Tian Hai Nua's head, sending him crashing into the ground. Tianhai Nua struggled to his feet, his body dripping with blood. Never could he have guessed that a rebirth-level expert like him would be hurt by two life-seizers working together. Furthermore, the two of them had worked so well together just now. Unfortunately, there was no time to ponder the situation. Imperial Heaven Strength, Tempest Fist. Fist projections filled the air, and yet Fan Ruahai was nowhere to be seen. Tianhai Nua didn't have the energy to search for Fan Ruahai. All he could do was defend himself against Ling Xiao's fists. Ling Xiao was only in the 16th stage of life-seizing, and yet the power of his fists filled him with dread. It was almost as if each and every one of his fists contained power beyond that of an ordinary person. Don't tell me that's the power of profundities? No, that's impossible. What level is his cultivation base at? How could he possibly understand profundities? Profundities are beyond the power of will. Only when one's battle spirit reaches the level of manifestation can they be transformed into profundities. Tianhai Nua refused to believe that Ling Xiao could possibly understand profundities, and yet he knew that Ling Xiao's attacks were causing him serious injuries that he couldn't ignore. Not good. Even as Tianhai Nua was trying to figure out what was going on with Ling Xiao's terrifying fists, a long spear appeared, stabbing toward his throat. Tianhai Nua hurriedly raised his fist to defend himself. However, the spear was simply too fast. Terrifying spear will erupted, and the bronze gate opened again. Even the spear was wrapped in sealing power. Chapter 2040. Retreat. Seeing Fan Ruahai's spear bearing down on him, Tianhai Nua roared, unleashed a fist strike, and then turned to flee. Today he had come to realize that rebirth realm experts weren't invincible in the face of life-seizers. That was especially true when facing two consummate geniuses at the same time. Whether it was Ling Xiao or Fan Ruahai, Tianhai Nua wasn't afraid of fighting either of them alone. But facing both of them at the same time left him mentally and physically exhausted. "Let's get out of here, Brother Fan," Fan Ruahai said. "We won't be able to kill that old codger any time soon." Ling Xiao knew his own limits. Although the two of them might be able to suppress Tianhai Nua, he was still a rebirth realm expert. However, a rebirth realm cultivator was still a rebirth realm cultivator. It was truly difficult to kill a rebirth realm cultivator. If the battle dragged on for too long, the enemy's reinforcements would arrive. At that time, they would not be able to escape. Fan Ruahai was a smart person, and therefore he and Ling Xiao boarded the airship. When they reached the Dragon Phoenix continent, the two of them breathed a sigh of relief. "Many thanks for saving me, Brother Ling," Fan Ruahai said. "Without you, I would have died in Heaven Sea City. Just a small token of my appreciation." With that, he produced a few dozen jugs of fine wine from his ring of holding, all of which were extremely nourishing. Especially for martial artists, they were definitely good stuff. Ling Xiao didn't stand on ceremony. "Your Fan clan brews fine wine," he said. "It would be impolite of me to refuse." As of this moment, the relationship between Ling Xiao and Fan Ruahai had grown even closer. In the past, they had used each other to their advantage, but now they were friends who would go through life and death together. After all, a friend in need was a friend indeed. Friendships forged in life and death situations were far more precious than those formed over wine. "Qinhua, you guys come over here," Yang Qi said. Ling Xiao said loudly, "After drinking this wine, your bodily functions will be restored. Even your crippled cultivation will be restored. Don't worry, now that the conditions are good, your cultivation will be restored as soon as possible." Although Ling Xiao could not restore the cultivation of Qinhua and the others in a short period of time, with a large amount of resources and good conditions, he could guarantee that these people would recover to their original level within a month. Qin, who gulped down a mouthful of wine. Sure enough, he could feel that his broken meridians were healing unceasingly. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. "Good wine. It really is a good wine. Qinhua, why did you all come looking for me?" Ling Xiao believed that if nothing major happened, Qin Hua and the others would not risk coming to the Sky Sea Empire to look for him. By the way, Your Majesty, something big happened. At this moment, Qin Hua also thought of the serious matter and hurriedly said, "Not long after you, Long Chen, and the others left the Dragon Phoenix continent, the sea race started to harass our empire's borders unceasingly. The soldiers were suffering unspeakably. Although there were only a few of them, they came and went quickly, appearing and disappearing unpredictably on the sea. Many villages and towns on the border of the empire have been plundered by them. The civilians are really miserable." Sea race. Humph. Ling Xiao's eyes revealed a cold, killing intent. In the past, he did not plan to eradicate those sea race because he did not possess that strength yet. But returning this time, it was impossible for him to let those fellows off. Even if he had to go to the bottom of the sea, he also had to exterminate those fellows. Qin Hua continued, "Forget about the sea race. For some reason, the White Tiger Continent's Silver Fox Empire also suddenly launched an attack on our Heavenly Dynasty Empire. The army passed through the Sky Sea Empire's territory and marched straight in, unfolding a fierce battle with our army at the border. Fortunately, Your Majesty set up a grand array when you left. They are still unable to break through in a short period of time. But we are facing the harassment of the sea race and the attacks of the Silver Fox Empire. It has really reached an extremely dangerous situation." Qin, whose voice revealed anxiety and anger. At the same time, there was also some unwillingness. Did the Sky Sea Empire not care about anything? We are still their subordinate country in name and even gave them offerings. Could it be that all that money was fed to the dogs? Ling Xiao asked in a cold voice. "Don't mention those fellows. Not only did they not help us, they even secretly instigated a bunch of Divine Phoenix Empire and Black Crow Empire's remnants to rebel. With the resources they provided, those traitors were extremely arrogant. Those people who fled to the White Tiger Continent all returned to the Dragon Phoenix Continent through the secret passage opened by the Sky Sea Empire and started all kinds of chaos. There were even assassinations. Many of our middle and high-ranking generals were assassinated. The situation is critical." The more Qin Hua spoke, the more anxious he became. His eyes were bloodshot, the color of grief and indignation. Ling Xiao suddenly laughed. His ice-cold laughter seemed to be able to condense the air. "The rats have all been mobilized. Then we can catch them all in one fell swoop." Ling Xiao originally wanted to eliminate the weeds by the roots. It was a pity that his strength was not enough at that time. In addition, the other party used the teleportation array to escape long ago, so he could not do anything. After arriving at the Sky Sea Empire, those people were protected by the large forces of the White Tiger Continent. It was even more impossible for him to kill them. But this time, everything was different. Sea race, traitors, Silver Fox Empire, Sky Sea Empire. You just wait and see. You'll pay the price in blood for what you've done. "Brother Fan," Yang Qi said, "do you want to leave now and look for your Fan clan member somewhere else? Or do you want to come back to the Heavenly Dynasty with me?" Ling Xiao asked, "You helped me before, so I'll help you this time. After all, the Fan clan has as many experts as the clouds in the sky. Although Sky Sea City was destroyed, not many people died. All of the top experts left. There's no need for me to rush back. After helping you, I can go back. The Sky Sea Empire is my enemy. They killed my little brother, so I can use you to get revenge." Fan Ruahai thought for a moment. "You're a good brother. With you by my side, there's nothing to worry about." Ling Xiao clapped Fan Ruahai on the shoulder, excitedly. Fan Ruahai was an 18th stage life-sizer and could break through to the rebirth level at any moment. To Ling Xiao, the help of an expert like that was very important. Of course, he would welcome it. "Let me go." Even as Ling Xiao and Fan Ruahai were discussing how to deal with the Sky Sea Empire, a voice echoed out from one of the uninhabited islands. It was a voice that was very familiar. Ling Xiao was sure he had heard it before. He couldn't help but look down. As far as his taiji eye could see, he finally saw that pair of lovely eyes. Who else could that kind-hearted girl be, if not Ji Mingming? Back when Ling Xiao had first arrived at the Sacred Dynasty's immortal island, Ji Mingming had helped him. She really was a naive and innocent girl. Ji Mingming was wearing a suit of armor, but it was cracked in many places, and blood was oozing out of it. Scabs had already formed in many places, but it was still in bad shape. In addition to Ji Mingming, Ling Xiao also saw a group of other young women. From the way they were dressed, it was obvious that they were from the Heavenly Dynasty. Although Ling Xiao only knew Ji Mingming, he couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Chapter 2041. Ling Xiao naturally had to take care of Ji Mingming's matters, and the one holding Ji Mingming hostage was none other than Ji Mingming's brother, Ji Huangtian. He was once a #1 figure in the Divine Phoenix continent. He was ranked second on the Dragon Phoenix list. He was much more famous than Ling Xiao, but today he even wanted to hold his own sister hostage. Although she wasn't his biological sister, she was still his cousin. "Shut up!" Ji Huangtian slapped Ji Mingming's face and scolded. "You traitorous bitch! You actually colluded with that Ling Xiao. If it wasn't for that guy, our Sacred Dynasty Immortal Island wouldn't have been defeated to such an extent. Brother, you're crazy. I support you if you want to revive the Ji family, but you colluded with the sea race and continuously harmed the people at the border. You even sent these girls to the sea race to be defiled. Aren't you afraid of retribution?" Ji Mingming's face was slightly red and swollen, but she wasn't frightened by Ji Huangtian. "Retribution? Humph! I have the Tianhai Empire behind me now. Who do you think can give me retribution? Ling Xiao. That guy dares to make an enemy out of the Tianhai Empire?" Ji Huangtian said disdainfully, "But you should think carefully about what kind of abuse you'll suffer after being captured by the sea race." "Ha! Who told you that I don't dare to make a move against the Tianhai Empire?" A sudden voice came from the sky, giving Ji Huangtian a fright. He looked at the sky in horror. There was a figure there, under the scarlet sun. He looked like a god, emitting a dazzling light. Ling Xiao. Ji Huangtian couldn't be wrong. The figure in the sky was Ling Xiao. He was his enemy, the culprit who reduced him from a high and mighty genius to a mortal. If it wasn't for Ling Xiao, he would still be the pride of the Divine Phoenix continent. He would still be able to abuse his power on the Sacred Dynasty Immortal Island. "You! Impossible! How are you still alive?" Ji Huangtian shouted in horror. In the past, he had never put Ling Xiao in his eyes, but now Ling Xiao was high and mighty. He no longer had the qualifications to be compared with them. However, he had heard from the Tianhai Empire that the Tianhai Sovereign King intended to kill Ling Xiao. Even the Tianhai Sacred Institution's rebirth realm expert, Tianhai Nua, had made a move. How could Ling Xiao still be alive? Was he dreaming? "Are you disappointed that I'm alive?" Ling Xiao glanced at Ji Huangtian and said, "You're still a descendant of the Sacred Dynasty. How can you be reduced to colluding with the sea race and harming humans? If you came to me for revenge, I would still respect you as a man. But now, you're worse than a maggot in a cesspool. Shut up. Since you're not dead yet, you can die today." "Ha!" Ji Huangtian suddenly laughed madly. At the same time, many sea race warriors crawled out of the seawater. There were Yin Yang realm warriors and Grotto Heaven realm warriors. There were hundreds of them. "You think you have what it takes," Ling Xiao said, chuckling disdainfully. Then he waved his hand, sending a beam of sword energy out to circle around the island, leaving behind hundreds of corpses. In the past, Yin Yang realm warriors might have been terrifyingly powerful, but now the Heavenly Dynasty Empire had plenty of them, and Ling Xiao was already in the 16th stage of life seizing. In fact, he didn't even need to use much internal energy to deal with these sea race warriors. Ling Xiao suddenly frowned. In the instant that he killed the sea race warriors, he sensed a terrifying aura. Suddenly, that aura surged toward him. Power of the earth. Shield of earth. Ling Xiao roared, unleashing the power of the earth. In the blink of an eye, the earth beneath him rose up, completely shielding him. Then, a terrifying force slammed into the shield of earth. The shield of earth was destroyed, and Ling Xiao staggered back a dozen or so steps. However, he wasn't injured. It was at this point that he saw who had ambushed him. "So, it's you, Overseer Devil Cube." The newcomer stood atop a Rubik's Cube and looked to be about 7 or 8 years old. Who else could it be but Overseer Devil Cube? "You really do deserve to die," Overseer Devil Cube said, looking coldly at Ling Xiao. "I haven't seen you for a few days, and yet your cultivation base has risen to such a level. Not even my ambush could hurt you. I told Sect Lord Dark Underworld long ago that I could put everything else aside and focus on killing you. However, he seemed to be more interested in the fighting in the Western Domain, so I had no choice but to chase after you personally." "You've been waiting for me here?" Ling Xiao asked. "That's right. I knew you'd come back to the Heavenly Dynasty Empire, so I've been waiting for you. When I heard you ran into Tianhai Nua, I was a bit disappointed. I assumed you died in the Heavenly Sea Empire. I didn't expect you to still be alive." "That's great. I'll capture you alive and dissect you for research. Just what are you made of? Your cultivation speed is so fast." Overseer Devil Cube's words were incomparably cold. It was clear that he was determined to kill Ling Xiao. As he spoke, the Rubik's Cube beneath his feet released a 7-colored light. Each ray of light seemed to emit a strange killing intent. Ji Huangtian lay there in fright. He was also frightened by this scene that suddenly happened, especially the powerful and terrifying aura released by Overseer Devil Cube. He couldn't even move his body. "Brother Fan, save the girls on the island and bring them back to the Heavenly Dynasty Empire. I'll hold this person back." Because he had already fought with Tianhai Nua, Ling Xiao had a certain level of understanding of the strength of a rebirth realm cultivator, even though it was almost impossible to defeat one. Although it was almost impossible to defeat him, it wasn't like he didn't have the strength to fight. "No problem." Fan Ruohai nodded. He now admired Ling Xiao very much. He knew that Ling Xiao wasn't the kind of person who would throw his life away. Since he made such a decision, he must have his reasons. Therefore, he controlled the airship to descend and save Ji Mengmeng and the others on the island. As for Ji Huangtian, he could just kill him. In any case, looking at the situation, Ji Huangtian and Ling Xiao had a deep grudge. Killing him would solve a small problem for Ling Xiao. "Want to leave? Dream on." Overseer Devil Cube pointed his finger. A red light shot out from the Rubik's Cube and blasted towards the airship. "Your opponent is me." Ling Xiao's voice suddenly sounded in Overseer Devil Cube's ear, giving him fright. He hurriedly reversed the red light and shot it towards Ling Xiao. Boom! The red light and Ling Xiao's sword collided in the void. Ling Xiao's figure rapidly retreated, but at the same time he took away a few strands of Overseer Devil Cube's hair. At that moment, if Overseer Devil Cube had insisted on attacking the airship, he wouldn't have just lost a few strands of hair. His head would have been removed from his body. After all, a rebirth realm martial artist wasn't invincible. "You dare to be distracted while fighting me. Xian Ming might be able to do it, but you can't." Ling Xiao coldly looked at Overseer Devil Cube. He had long wanted to kill this guy, but unfortunately he wasn't strong enough. Today he wanted to give it a try. Chapter 2042. Ling Xiao stared coldly at the Rubik Cube, his radiance and light godly sword transforming into a pure white holy sword. At the same time, Ling Xiao donned his blood-colored armor and entered the god-slaying body. "You've got some guts, kid. Sadly, that won't change anything. The life-seizing level is still in the yin-yang realm. Compared to a rebirth realm cultivator, you're still far from it." With that, the Rubik Cube circulated his internal energy, causing two beams of light to shoot out from his cube, one red and one black. They shot toward Ling Xiao from two different directions. Of the two beams of light, just one was enough to deal with Ling Xiao. Now that they were working together, it would be difficult for Ling Xiao to defend himself. Sword will of the third level. Ling Xiao brandished the white blade holy sword in his hand and released a terrifying great success sword will. The sword qi in the air roared in fury. Humph. So what if you have a sword will of the third level? The Rubik cube sneered. My battle will has only just reached the third level, and I'm not as strong as you. But you're not even in the rebirth realm. What makes you think you can compete with me? The Rubik cube laughed coldly, and the two beams of light shot toward Ling Xiao, one red and one black. Under the impact of this terrifying light, the soaring sword qi shattered one after another. It was actually unable to block it at all. Hell sword technique. First form. Hell of the tongue ripping. Ling Xiao was finally using the Hell sword technique, a technique he had acquired from the Empress of Nine Heavens Palace. At the same time, he unleashed his 18 Hell talismans. Ling Xiao infused the 18 Hell talismans into his Hell sword technique, causing it to become even more ferocious. The instant he unleashed the technique, the space around him transformed into a hell of the tongue ripping, which completely enveloped the Rubik cube. Terrifying killing intent pierced through all obstacles, and the pitch-black aura of hell exploded out. It's useless. Your sword technique is strong, but there's a fundamental difference between the Yin-Yang realm and the rebirth realm. You might have fought Tianhai Nua before, but he hasn't truly entered the cycle of reincarnation. Compared to me, he's far too weak. Venerable Magic Cube sneered. Two beams of red and black light easily destroyed the ghostly energy released by the layers of hell. It was so overbearing that it was suffocating. If he hadn't heard 9 Heaven Dream mention the characteristics of the samsara boundary, Ling Xiao might not have understood what Venerable Magic Cube meant. But now he understood. Tianhai Nua's method of advancing to the rebirth realm was a common method. Although he was still much stronger than a Yin-Yang realm martial artist, he was not so strong that it made others despair. It was also because of this that Ling Xiao and Fan Ruohai were able to defeat that guy when they joined forces. But Venerable Magic Cube was different. This fellow had directly entered samsara and cultivated to the samsara realm. The disparity in strength was far, far too great. It was impossible for Ling Xiao to win. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao already had the idea of retreating. Since he couldn't win, it would be too dangerous if he insisted on fighting. Human King Cauldron. Ling Xiao released the Human Emperor Cauldron and completely enveloped himself. Venerable Magic Cube's terrifying attack landed on the Human Emperor Cauldron, causing it to tremble violently. Ling Xiao felt his blood churning and was extremely uncomfortable, but he wasn't afraid of being injured at this moment. Although the difference in strength was huge, the effects of the Human Emperor Cauldron were not to be underestimated. You really did obtain the Human Emperor Cauldron, but such a treasure is really a waste in your hands. Give it to me. Venerable Magic Cube sneered. His figure flashed and directly charged towards Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao accelerated his retreat, hoping to return to the Dragon Phoenix continent as soon as possible. As long as he reached the Dragon Phoenix continent, his mystic world body would erupt with the most terrifying power. Even a rebirth realm martial artist wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a dazzling sword qi pierced through the void. The target was Venerable Magic Cube. Venerable Magic Cube was shocked by the sudden sword qi. He hurriedly turned his body and used his Magic Cube treasure to meet it. Crack! The sword qi slammed into the Magic Cube treasure, and Venerable Magic Cube was sent flying back dozens of meters, his face grim. Up in the air, a figure appeared. Behind him was a small jade sword, a standard martial soul of a sword. A sword martial soul combined with a sword technique. Although it was ordinary, it was a perfect combination. Who's there? Venerable Magic Cube asked, looking at the figure warily. Only when the figure stepped out of the void did he realize who it was. Nine heavens, do! Venerable Magic Cube's expression was grim. He couldn't believe that Nine Heavens Du had chased him all the way here. In the distance, Ling Xiao was also stunned. He had not allowed the Nine Heavens Du to escort him, but he had not expected that the Nine Heavens Du would still escort him here, protecting him in secret all this time. Venerable Magic Cube, she said, you really do think highly of our friend from Nine Heavens Palace. He's only in the life-seizing level, and yet you've personally ambushed him. But it's a pity that the friends of my Nine Heavens Palace aren't so easily killed by anyone. Nine Heavens Du looked coldly at Venerable Magic Cube, a faint smile on her face. Every word she spoke was like a razor-sharp sword chi that could pierce through the void and pierce through a person's body. It was terrifying to the extreme. Sister Du's sword chi is no weaker than mine, Venerable Magic Cube said. Ling Xiao sighed in amazement. Now that reinforcements had arrived, he had no intention of leaving. If there was a chance, killing this Magic Cube Venerable could be considered as cutting off a very big problem. If I want to kill him, can you stop me? Venerable Magic Cube said with a cold laugh. Apparently, he didn't know that Nine Heavens Du had recently made a breakthrough in her cultivation base, which was why he said something like that. Otherwise, he would have turned tail and fled. Considering the level of his cultivation base, it wouldn't be difficult for him to escape. There was no way Nine Heavens Du could kill him. But if he chose not to leave, then there was no telling what would happen. Ling Xiao didn't sit around idly. He pulled out a spell refining stone and threw it out. Myriad Lightning Immortal Slaying Formation. Fake! Ling Xiao couldn't set up the real Myriad Lightning Immortal Slaying Formation yet, but he could definitely set up the inferior one, and its power was similarly immense. As if that wasn't enough, he threw out another spell refining stone. Plague Bone Dissolving Formation. This Plague Bone Dissolving Formation could greatly weaken Venerable Magic Cube's strength, creating a huge advantage for Nine Heavens Du. He didn't believe that Venerable Magic Cube wouldn't die. Venerable Magic Cube, this isn't the first time you've humiliated my Nine Heavens Palace. Today, let's settle the problem here. Nine Heavens Du received Ling Xiao's soul transmission and was determined to kill Venerable Magic Cube here. Hence, the sword in her hand trembled, and a terrifying sword intent erupted. Then, terrifying sword chi fell like rain towards Venerable Magic Cube. The sky was almost filled with sword chi. Venerable Magic Cube's face was cold. He raised his hand, and 7 different colored lights were released from the Magic Cube. The lights pierced through the sky, forming a 7-colored barrier that blocked Nine Heavens Du's sword chi. But at this moment, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Terrifying bolts of lightning began to fall from the sky. Together with Nine Heavens Du's sword chi, it posed a great threat to his defense. Chapter 2043. The aura caused Arhut Rubik's head to spin. He immediately tried to avoid the aura. However, the pestilence bone dissolving formation was still in effect. Not good. Crafty brat. You're really despicable. Arhut Rubik finally realized that he was in trouble. He turned around and roared at Ling Xiao. His rage had reached its peak. When it comes to being despicable, I, Ling Xiao, really can't compare to you people from the Black Turtle Temple. Ling Xiao laughed mockingly. Bastard! Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Ignoring the sword energy of the Nine Heavens Du, Arhut Rubik spun around and charged toward Ling Xiao. How dare you underestimate me, Arhut Rubik, Yang Qi said. In that moment, the sound of the Nine Heavens Du could be heard, and a sharp blade stabbed into Arhut Rubik's back. Arhut Rubik trembled violently. Howling madly, he fled in a direction where no one was watching. He knew that he had made a grave mistake. He had underestimated Ling Xiao, and he had also underestimated the power of the Nine Heavens Du. Although Ling Xiao wasn't as strong as a rebirth realm expert, he had many ways of fighting that could give them a headache. As for the 9 Heavens Dew, it had only been a few days, and her cultivation base had improved. She had been stronger than Arhut Rubik before, and now she was even stronger. Arhut Rubik was no match for her. Die. As the saying goes, take advantage of your opponent's weakness to kill him. Seeing Arhut Rubik injured by the 9 Heavens Dew, how could Ling Xiao possibly let him off the hook? After all, a seriously injured rebirth realm expert might not be a match for a high-level life-sizer. Furthermore, Ling Xiao's battle prowess was no weaker than that of an 18th stage life-sizer. In fact, he might even be able to take on an ordinary rebirth realm expert. If he wanted to kill Arhut Rubik, it wouldn't be impossible. In the blink of an eye, Ling Xiao had transformed into a heaven devil and was now behind Arhut Rubik. The sealing mark on his forehead began to open. The demon king of the first heaven was released. The demon king of the first heaven was already under the complete control of Ling Xiao. Now he was borrowing his strength in order to ensure that he could kill Venerable Magic Cube. Sky Devil Purgatory. Demons Dance. As Ling Xiao's voice rang out, countless terrifying monsters were released from the Sky Devil Purgatory. All sorts of demonic creatures rushed out, trying to tear apart Venerable Magic Cube's body. Scram! Venerable Magic Cube struggled with all his might, destroying wave after wave of attacks. However, the Dance of the Demons was a technique that Ling Xiao had comprehended by fusing the demonic qi of the demons he had killed in the skyscraper furnace. There was no end to the endless number of demons. In the end, Venerable Magic Cube was dragged into the heavenly devil purgatory by the endless demonic creatures. It was devoured by the black devil qi. Venerable reincarnation realm experts were actually being devoured alive by Ling Xiao, a 16th stage life-sizer. Of course, the main reason was that Venerable Magic Cube had been seriously injured by the 9 Heavens Dew. Even so, in all of the White Tiger continent, Ling Xiao was probably the only person who could do something like this. That was the power of the champion of the White Tiger meat. Off in the distance, Fan Ruai looked on in shock, his heart pounding. His cultivation base was higher than Ling Xiao's, but in terms of battle prowess, he couldn't even begin to compare. He really needed to be on good terms with Ling Xiao. If he could form an alliance with Ling Xiao, the Fan clan wouldn't have to worry about making a comeback, and he wouldn't have to worry about getting revenge for his younger brother. After killing Venerable Magic Cube, Ling Xiao floated up into the air, retracting his heavenly devil purgatory. He looked like a devil god slaughtering his enemies, to the point where even the 9 Heavens Dew was stunned. Many thanks, Big Sister Dew. Ling Xiao looked at the 9 Heavens Dew and cupped his fists. If not for the 9 Heavens Dew today, even if he, Ling Xiao, could escape safely, it would be absolutely impossible to kill Venerable Magic Cube. This Venerable Magic Cube was a reincarnation realm martial artist. After devouring this person, Ling Xiao would gain a large amount of experience in reincarnation. This was much better than asking his master to guide him. Just one of us, what's there to thank? The 9 Heavens Dew cracked a smile and said, "Since you've already arrived at the Heavenly Dynasty Empire safely, I should also return to the 9 Heavens Palace to report on the completion of the mission." Big Sister Dew, be careful along the way. Ling Xiao said, "Relax, on the White Tiger continent, no one can kill me alone yet. Goodbye." Done talking, the 9 Heavens Dew tore through the air, instantly vanishing into the horizon. Let's go too. Fearing that there would be more unforeseen events, Ling Xiao stepped onto the flywheel ship and accelerated towards the Heavenly Dynasty Empire together with Fan Ruai. Not long after they left, several figures suddenly appeared. The leader was none other than Xian Yi, Xian Feng's personal guard. As for the others, they were all life-seizers who had been ordered by Bound Heaven to kill Ling Xiao. How did that kid become so terrifying? Xian Yi was the most frightened of them all. Back when Ling Xiao and Xian Feng had fought, Xian Yi had taught Ling Xiao a harsh lesson, and knew exactly how strong the kid was. And yet, it had only been a short time since they last met, and he was already strong enough to kill the venerable magic cube. Even though the Rubik's Cube Venerable had been injured by the 9 heavens due, who else but Ling Xiao had the ability to do so? Xianyi, let's go back and report on the mission. Besides, the Silver Fox Empire, the Skycy Empire, the Ocean Folk, and the Skycy Alliance are all focused on the Heavenly Dynasty Empire and Ling Xiao. We don't have to worry about the kid. One of them advised. No, we can't just leave like that. We'll definitely be punished if we don't bring anything back. Xianyi shook his head. Then what should we do? The others asked. Simple, Xianyi said. An abrupt voice rang out as a figure emerged from the depths of the sea. Everyone looked over and realized that it was Qinyu. What are you doing here, Qinyu? Xianyi said, both shocked and delighted. Although Qinyu was only in the 18th stage of life seizing, and wasn't in the rebirth realm, he was still far stronger than any of them. With Qinyu around, they would feel much more confident. Don't worry about why I'm here, Xianyi said. I just thought of something. Since it won't be easy to deal with Ling Xiao, why don't we target the people close to him? His friends and family aren't as strong as he is. Don't you guys agree? Qinyu chuckled coldly, his eyes flickering with sinister coldness. That's right. Let him struggle in pain. Let his heart of martial arts be disrupted, and his path of martial arts will be destroyed. Xianyi clapped his hands. Everyone nodded in agreement. Obviously, dealing with the people close to Ling Xiao was much easier than dealing with Ling Xiao himself. Therefore, everyone agreed with the idea. Of course, Ling Xiao wasn't aware of what Qinyu and the others were planning. However, there was one thing he knew, and that was that someone was plotting against him. Most likely, it was the Black Turtle Cathedral. Since they hadn't been able to kill him in the Myriad Lightning's desolate land, they would definitely follow him back to the Heavenly Dynasty Empire. That was why he was in such a hurry to return to the Heavenly Dynasty Empire. Once he arrived, he would make arrangements to ensure that the assassins wouldn't succeed. Furthermore, he would get his revenge as soon as possible. Chapter 2044. Finally, a day later, Ling Xiao arrived at Divine Phoenix City. Divine Phoenix City is the new capital of the Heavenly Dynasty Empire, located above the former capital of the Divine Phoenix Empire. After the renovation and reconstruction, the people living here, except for a portion of them who migrated from the Heavenly Dragon Continent, are mostly the original people. But now, they all treat Ling Xiao as their common lord and only recognize this one Heavenly Emperor. The other is Emperor Wuxiang, who is guarding the Heavenly Dragon Empire for Ling Xiao. Seeing this familiar city and breathing the familiar air, Ling Xiao clearly feels much more relaxed. At the very least, Divine Phoenix City does not seem to be harassed and still maintains its prosperity and prosperity. Divine Phoenix City is now a miniature of the Heavenly Dynasty Empire. Only by living and working here can other places be better. If even Divine Phoenix City is not peaceful, then there is no need to mention other places. Find a place to land. It would be best to let the people see and know that their Heavenly Emperor has returned. Ling Xiao's purpose in doing this is very simple. It is to give the people of the Heavenly Dynasty Empire hope and courage. After all, the Silver Fox Empire is pressuring the border. There is a rebellion in the country. The Sea Clan is still constantly harassing the border, and the Heavenly Sea Empire is funding the rebel Heavenly Sea Alliance. No matter what, it will make the people of the Heavenly Dynasty Empire feel uneasy. There were even people who said that he, Ling Xiao, will not return here and has long forgotten about this place. So he has to appear to let everyone know that he, Ling Xiao, has not forgotten the empire he created. The whistling wind sounds in the sky. Ling Xiao stands on the deck of the flywheel ship, and a huge emperor phantom appears in the sky. This is condensed from Ling Xiao's aura. The huge emperor phantom is the symbol of his return. In Divine Phoenix City, the commoners who were busy and working suddenly heard the noise in the sky, and all of them raised their heads to look. On the huge and mighty flywheel ship, their heavenly emperor is standing on the deck, waving to them. "Look, it's His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor. His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor is back. His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor did not abandon us. We are saved. The end of those traitors has come." Almost in an instant, the news of Ling Shao appearing in the sky above divine Phoenix City spread through the streets and alleys. Everyone ran out of their houses and shouted at the sky. Their celestial emperor had taken first place in the White Tiger Storm meet, displaying his great talent and strength. Now he could be considered to have returned home in glory. "Humph, you're actually so ostentatious. Soon you won't be able to be happy." Of course, there were also people with bad intentions in the crowd. With the support of the Sky-Sea Empire, this rebel organization, the Sky-Sea Alliance had already infiltrated divine Phoenix City. They began a crazy assassination operation. There were already quite a few court officials who had been threatened. The assistant minister of the Ministry of War, who had once left the military service, was killed by many people on his way home, dying a miserable death. This was the highest-ranking official who had been assassinated so far. The number of people who had been assassinated had already reached several hundred. This was an extremely terrifying number. Under Wu Xiang's efforts, the enemy's nests were destroyed one by one, and tens of thousands of traitors were killed. But it was useless. After the Sky-Sea Alliance, which the Sky-Sea Empire had secretly supported, was destroyed once, it actually revived from the ashes. This time the martial artists seemed to be even stronger than before, and there were even people from the Dark God Hall involved. It could be said that all the officials were in a state of panic. Many of them requested to retire and return home, although there were also some who were not afraid of death. It was not a solution in the long run. Many people knew that the root of the Sky-Sea Alliance's problem was the Sky-Sea Empire. As long as the Sky-Sea Empire was destroyed, the Sky-Sea Alliance would naturally disintegrate and never be revived. But the problem was that with the Heavenly Empire's current strength, how could it be a match for the Sky-Sea Empire? At this moment, the court was still arguing about this matter. Suddenly, a voice came from outside the door. Reporting. The voice was loud and vigorous, full of energy, and even contained incomparable surprise. Reporting. In the court, Wu Xiang ordered the messenger to enter. Reporting. Reporting to your Majesty. The Celestial Emperor has returned. Really? Wu Xiang's originally knitted brows instantly relaxed. He's back. His good brother had finally returned. He had also learned of Ling Zhao's outstanding results through the live broadcast. However, because of the war in the country, although they celebrated for a day, many assassinations broke out on that day. Fortunately, security measures were in place and a major disaster was averted. He was truly both physically and mentally exhausted. To tell the truth, some of those assassins were extremely powerful, and he was no match for them. If he were a bit more powerful, he would have personally gone out and killed those bastards. Senior brother. Before Wu Xiang could step out of the court to welcome Ling Shao, Ling Shao had already walked in. The nearby officials all knelt on the ground and watched as Ling Shao stepped into the court and embraced Wu Xiang. Junior brother. Many things needed to be said without words. The two of them really had a lot to say, but at this moment they only wanted to express their feelings with their bodies. After a long while, the two of them finally separated. Wu Xiang looked at Ling Shao and couldn't help but nod. Junior brother is indeed more robust and valiant than before. No matter how much I change, I'm still your junior brother. Ling Zhao's smile was calm, but after all, he was only 17 years old, so he was still somewhat immature. However, in the eyes of all the officials in the court, Ling Shao was so unfathomable. That terrifying temperament, without even speaking, was enough to make them lie there and not even dare to raise their heads. Is that His Majesty the Celestial Emperor? He's so young. I really didn't expect him to be so powerful. Among the officials, some of them had only entered the court after Ling Shao left. Ling Shao generally didn't care too much about these things. Wu Xiang and the central organization of the Heavenly Empire would make the decisions. He believed that his mission was to become stronger. Only when he became strong enough would no one dare to touch his people and his empire. That's right, that's our celestial emperor. He got first place in the white tiger meet, and he actually rejected the 5 major forces of the black tortoise continent. It's really shocking. The private discussions of the officials couldn't stray away from Ling Xiao's greatness and miraculous. A little beggar of the heavenly dragon continent actually stepped onto the peak of the white tiger continent. If this matter was written into a book, probably not many people would believe it. Junior brother, senior brother didn't do well. Many of our good brothers died and were injured. Wu Xiang looked at Ling Xiao and wanted to pour out his grievances. I know. Ling Xiao nodded, then turned around and faced the officials. Tai Chi opened. Suddenly, his figure flashed, and 3 people were directly grabbed out of the crowd and thrown in the middle of the court. Chapter 2045. The ministers looked at Ling Xiao in confusion, not knowing what Ling Xiao was up to. However, Ling Xiao didn't look at them. Instead, he stared at the 3 men and said, "Where is the Sky-Sea Alliance's base? Tell me, and I'll spare your lives." Hearing this, the ministers finally understood why Ling Xiao was doing this. These 3 men were actually from the Sky-Sea Alliance. They were traitor spies. They didn't know how their celestial emperor saw through them, but they believed in his judgment. "Your Majesty, we've been wronged." Of course, the 3 men wouldn't admit that they were spies. Ling Xiao didn't waste any time. With a wave of his hand, a sword aura pierced through the air and killed one of them on the spot. "Are you still wronged?" Ling Xiao asked coldly. His Tai Chi eye could see through people's minds, especially those who were much weaker than him. It was impossible for them to escape from his Tai Chi eye. "I'll tell you." One of them shouted, "We are indeed from the Sky-Sea Alliance, but we really want to leave the Sky-Sea Alliance and pledge our loyalty to the Celestial Empire. The Sky-Sea Alliance's base is in Black Raven City." Uft! By the time he finished speaking, his head had already been separated from his body. "Lies will also lead to death. What do you plan to do?" Ling Xiao looked at the last man and asked. This man was enveloped by Ling Xiao's terrifying aura and couldn't even commit suicide. He could only endure the hellish torture. His heart was filled with extreme fear. The Sky-Sea Alliance's base is the original Phoenix Academy. However, there's an independent space left behind from the primordial age underground. The man finally broke down and revealed the location of the Sky-Sea Alliance. "Senior brother, did you hear that? Gather the men immediately. I'll personally lead a team to eradicate the Sky-Sea Alliance." On the first day of his return, Ling Xiao wanted to deal a heavy blow to these traitors and completely destroy the Sky-Sea Alliance. Yes, Wu Xiang nodded excitedly and summoned the Divine Phoenix Army. The current Celestial Empire has 2 mysterious legions. One was the Heavenly Dragon Legion, which guarded the Heavenly Dragon region. They usually did not show their strength, but they were the strongest legion in terms of overall strength. They did not have many people, but the weakest of them was at the Grotto Heaven realm. The other was the Divine Phoenix Army. Like the Heavenly Dragon Army, they were in charge of guarding the Divine Phoenix domain. There weren't many of them, but they were all above the Grotto Heaven realm. The Heavenly Dragon Army was led by Ji Ning. The Divine Phoenix Army was directly under Wu Xiang. Mobilizing the Divine Phoenix Army to deal with the Sky-Sea Alliance was the best choice. Set off. Ling Xiao was very satisfied with this secret army. Whether it was the Heavenly Dragon Army or the Divine Phoenix Army, they were very similar to the Tianhai Empire's Demon Crocodile Guards. However, the Demon Crocodile Guards were exclusive to the royal family. The Sky Dragon Army and Divine Phoenix Army were responsible for carrying out secret missions and protecting the safety of the capital city. This day was destined to be a day of bloodshed. When Ling Xiao led the mysterious Divine Phoenix Army to the outskirts of the Phoenix Academy, the citizens of Divine Phoenix City all revealed excited expressions. "It's His Majesty, the Celestial Emperor. Is he going to get rid of the rebels?" Recently, the citizens had been mentally and physically exhausted by the rebels. The farmers didn't dare to leave the city. The merchants didn't dare to purchase goods. This made them extremely depressed. His Majesty the Emperor had sent an army to protect them, but this was definitely not a long-term solution. Now that His Majesty the Celestial Emperor had returned and was finally going to get rid of the source of this disaster, how could they not be excited? Ling Xiao floated in the sky, wearing a blood-red battle armor. The white blade in his hand released a resplendent light. This wasn't to increase his battle strength, but to attract attention. It was to increase the confidence of the citizens of Divine Phoenix City. It was impossible for the Sky-Sea Alliance not to know about such a large army. Therefore, they sent a small team of death warriors to intercept Ling Xiao halfway, and the rest of the people prepared to retreat. However, to retreat would require time, and this small team of death warriors was the key. The leader of this team of death warriors was none other than Feng Mingxiao, who used to be insufferably arrogant in the Divine Phoenix Empire. She was Wu Xiang's woman and Feng Minglian's mother. Back then, she was struck into the stormy ocean, but she didn't die. Instead, she joined the Sky-Sea Alliance and prepared to secretly take revenge. The weakest cultivator in this small team of death warriors was actually at the Yin-Yang realm. This kind of strength could only be achieved by the captains of the Divine Phoenix Army. One had to admit that the Sky-Sea Alliance was very powerful. If Ling Xiao hadn't returned, the Sky-Sea Alliance might have really caused great damage to the Heavenly Empire. The changes in the laws and large amounts of cultivation resources had increased the overall strength of the Heavenly Empire's warriors by level. In the past, it was extremely difficult to cultivate to the Grotto Heaven realm, but now a large number of warriors could cultivate to the Yin-Yang realm. Of course, the so-called large number of warriors couldn't compare to the White Tiger continent. This was also why Ling Xiao didn't order the army to launch a large-scale attack. If they were weaker, they would be very passive if they launched an attack. Senior brother, I'll leave your woman to you to deal with. Ling Xiao waved his hand, and the so-called small team of death warriors was instantly wiped out. Only Feng Mingxiao was left. Ling Xiao didn't even bother to make a move. Instead, he handed Feng Mingxiao to Wu Xiang. Although Wu Xiang's strength was still inferior to Feng Mingxiao's, this wasn't a problem. With Ling Xiao here, Feng Mingxiao wouldn't be able to overturn the heavens. Wu Xiang nodded and looked at Feng Mingxiao. Turn back, Xiao. You still have a chance now. You and I, as well as our daughter, can still live peacefully. I hope you won't continue to walk further and further down the wrong path. That's impossible. Feng Mingxiao's eyes were emotionless. Don't forget that all my feelings have been erased by the Fengming family's divine light. The only thing I'm loyal to now is the Fengming family. Even if I promise you now, I'll just be lying to you. One day, you and our daughter will die in my hands. What divine light? I can help you get rid of it. Ling Xiao said indifferently. The last thing he wanted to see was his senior brother's family die. Although he had some enmity with Feng Mingxiao, it was just a matter of different standpoints. If Feng Mingxiao could be restored to his original state, he naturally hoped for it the most. That's impossible. Although you're very powerful now, this divine light came from the Genie School. You can't erase it. Feng Mingxiao shook his head. What a joke. I can even absorb the divine light of Tianming. Do you think I'm afraid of the bullshit divine light of the Genie School? Ling Xiao didn't talk nonsense. His figure flashed, and he appeared beside Feng Mingxiao. Feng Mingxiao acted out of instinct, but he was easily restrained by Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao grabbed Feng Mingxiao's head and poured his terrifying soul force into it. In the depths of Feng Mingxiao's soul realm, there was indeed a ball of golden light causing trouble. Feng Mingxiao wasn't lying. Chapter 2046. You're overestimating yourself. Ling Xiao sneered. His terrifying soul power enveloped the golden light and extracted it from Feng Mingxiao's soul realm, quickly refining it. Compared to the divine light of heaven's mandate, it's too weak. This should be the divine will of a human immortal from the immortal court. It's too weak compared to a king of sovereigns. Ling Xiao stepped back and looked at Feng Mingxiao calmly. How do you feel? Actually, there was no need to ask. Everyone could see the result. Feng Mingxiao's originally cold eyes were now filled with emotions. This was the most direct difference. After being controlled by the divine light, Feng Mingxiao was basically an emotionless machine. She was only loyal to her family. To put it bluntly, she was also a victim. This is really a miracle. Feng Mingxiao stared at Ling Xiao, dumbfounded. She never dreamed that she would be able to return to her original self one day. Deep in her heart, she was already tired of fighting for her family and going against her conscience. It was also because of this that she chose to become a deathsworn. She wanted to die here and end everything. However, a miracle happened. Not only did she not die, but she also recovered. Feng Mingxiao, thanks your majesty. She knelt on the ground and thanked him sincerely. If it weren't for Ling Xiao, her daughter Feng Minglian might have followed her path. That would be a tragedy. She might have even killed the person she loved the most and her daughter. It would be a pain that would haunt her for the rest of her life. No need to thank me. Lian is now cultivating in the Nine Heaven Palace and is very safe. Are the people of the Sky Sea Alliance preparing to escape? Ling Xiao asked. That's right. They're preparing a teleportation array, but it'll take at least half an hour before they sent us out. Unfortunately, they probably didn't expect your majesty to be so powerful. Feng Mingxiao replied. Good. Take us to the Sky Sea Alliance's lair. It's time to get rid of this source of trouble. Ling Xiao said. No problem. Feng Mingxiao thanked Ling Xiao for rescuing her from the cage of the divine light. She hated those who used her bitterly. Now she wanted revenge. In the Sky Sea Alliance, a teleportation array was being set up. In the past, the members of the Sky Sea Alliance had always felt that they were too smart to have chosen this place as their base. There was nothing more exciting than wreaking havoc under the enemy's nose. But now they were filled with regret. This place was too close to the palace. If Ling Xiao wanted to rush over, it would be a matter of time. Even the Yin-Yang realm experts prepared to flee swiftly. The strength that Ling Xiao had displayed during the White Tiger Storm gathering was simply too shocking. They knew that they were definitely no match for him. Hurry up! Hurry up! All kinds of voices were shouting anxiously. These people couldn't wait to leave, because if they didn't leave now, they wouldn't have another chance. Boom! At this moment, the ground caved in and huge rocks fell. Many warriors were buried alive. Before they could even stand up from the ruins, they had already been killed by several figures that darted in. They were the Divine Phoenix Guards of the Divine Phoenix Army. They could deal with these Grotto Heaven Realm and low-level Yin-Yang Realm warriors. After wreaking havoc in my heavenly empire for so long, aren't you dreaming if you want to leave now? A cold and sinister voice came from above. Everyone looked up in horror. There was a young and terrifying figure there. The youth that they had once looked down on had now grown into the target of their fear. The current Ling Xiao was absolutely invincible in the Dragon Phoenix continent. No one was a match for him. Here he could kill whoever he wanted to kill, and destroy whoever he wanted to destroy. Now that he had discovered the Sky Sea Alliance, it was destined to be destroyed. Now that the teleportation array had been destroyed, they couldn't escape. Moreover, Ling Xiao would never accept their surrender. Spies were different from soldiers. Ling Xiao could accept the surrender of soldiers and civilians, but he wouldn't let a spy go, except for special circumstances like Feng Mingxiao. Kill without mercy. This was killing the chicken to warn the monkey. He wanted everyone to know that this was the outcome of those who dared to cause trouble in his heavenly empire. Let's go all out. Suddenly, a figure leaped up and charged at Ling Xiao. This person was actually an elder of the Sky Sea Sacred Court. Back then, Ling Xiao was nothing in his eyes. If not for the Moon Maiden, he would have killed Ling Xiao long ago. But now, Ling Xiao no longer had the Moon Maiden by his side, but he had developed an intense fear of Ling Xiao. He was very unconvinced. He didn't want to sit and wait for death, so he attacked. However, his actions were met with a casual strike from Ling Xiao. It was as easy as swatting a mosquito. The result of resisting is dying without a complete corpse. Ling Xiao coldly said, I really want to kill all of you because I hate people like you the most. So don't test my patience. The result of being impulsive might be that all of you will die without a complete corpse. Who is the Alliance Lord of the Sky Sea Alliance? Now, whoever tells me first, I can spare his life. It's him. As soon as Ling Xiao spoke, someone stood up and pointed at a black-clothed man in the crowd. The mighty Alliance Lord of the Sky Sea Alliance. Do you think you'll be fine just by hiding in the crowd? Have some backbone. Take off that black cloth and let me see who you are. Ling Xiao looked at the black-clothed man and jeered. The man slowly took off his black cloth. Perhaps he really knew that there was no hope. Rather than die an ignoble death, he might as well die with a bang. It's actually him. Feng Mingxiao said in shock. Who is he? Ling Xiao asked. This is the expert behind the Righteous Alliance. His status is even higher than the Righteous Alliance lords. Even those old bastards of the divine phoenix race have to listen to him. Feng Mingxiao replied, So it was you who ordered so many people to target me? To tell the truth, in the past, I really did find you very troublesome. At the time, you might have thought that I was just a puny ant that you could get rid of. But now, have you ever regretted making an enemy out of an ant like me? Although Ling Xiao had never met this person, he knew what this person had done. This person controlled all the decisions of the Divine Phoenix Empire from behind the scenes, and all those operations against Ling Xiao had been tacitly approved or approved by this person. At this moment, the four people behind him took off their black veils and revealed their true faces. Phoenix cried Songshan. Phoenix cry Tushan, Phoenix cry Tushan, Phoenix cry Lianshan. These four people were actually the four sons of the Divine Phoenix Emperor. The Divine Phoenix Emperor had 10 sons, and Ling Xiao had already killed the first, second, 9th, and 10th sons. He had even crippled the 8th son. Now the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th sons had all appeared. Chapter 2047. Why bother? The grudge between me and Emperor Divine Phoenix could be considered settled long ago. If you were no longer my enemy, I could have let you go. But now, you insist on dealing with me. Do you want to die? Ling Xiao looked at the four and said, The grudge of killing one's father is absolutely irreconcilable. The four of them said in unison, Good, you're right. Then I'll have you accompany your father in the underworld and fulfill your filial piety. Ling Xiao did not waste any more words. With a flick of his hand, for a shadow all shot out, and the four figures fell to the ground, dead. Ling Xiao could be merciful and let these people go, but these people did not know how to cherish it. If he could let them go once, he would not let them go a second time. After all, he did not want his friends and family to be assassinated while he was gone. He could not be merciful to enemies like this. You devil! The Righteous Alliance elder said, his voice trembling. Devil, can you not be so hypocritical? When you kill others, why don't you think that you're a devil? Back then, I was just a heaven realm martial artist. But you insisted on killing me. And all those soldiers of Northern Desert City were abandoned by you, weren't they? Those were the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Did you think that you were a devil? What are you pretending to be righteous for? Disgusting. Ling Xiao scornfully rebuked. The elder was filled with regret. In truth, if he had known that Ling Xiao would reach his current level of accomplishments, he would have supported Ling Xiao even if he had to abandon Emperor Divine Phoenix. At the very least, he would have never tried to kill Ling Xiao, which would have resulted in the enmity between him and Ling Xiao. This was truly a case of a single thought between heaven and hell. A casual thought back then had led to today's tragic scene. He truly felt somewhat helpless and sorrowful, but he truly deserved it. Enough nonsense. This old man knows that he is no match for you. but I still have to try." The old man looked at Ling Xiao and let out a long sigh. Since he had already made a mistake, there was no point in thinking about it. In the end, he could only die a more heroic death. Whoosh! His fighting spirit soared into the sky, and a white, ghost-like thing appeared behind the old man. It floated behind him, emitting an evil and terrifying aura. This should be the old man's martial spirit, the specter martial spirit. The ghost martial spirit is a special type of martial spirit. It has many unexpected special abilities. When the others saw this martial spirit, they felt a chill run down their spines. However, Ling Xiao's expression did not change at all. Regardless of how unique the other party's martial soul was, it would be meaningless if he was far stronger than the other party. Just like how Ling Xiao possessed the Sky Tyrant martial spirit, it was impossible for him to defeat a rebirth realm martial artist in a one-on-one battle. This was reality. All right, I'll give you a spectacular death. Ling Xiao brandished the white blade of the holy sword in his hand. A tyrannical and ferocious sword intent bloomed and enveloped the entire space. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but tremble. This sword intent was like a knife, stabbing into everyone's heart. How could they not feel fear? "Kill!" Ling Xiao said coldly. A terrifying sword qi pierced through the air and attacked the old man. The terrifying sword qi actually tore a deep hole in the void. "Fight!" The old man roared, and a powerful aura erupted from his body. A long spear flew out from the void and charged towards Ling Xiao's sword qi. It was as fast as a meteor. Crack! In just an instant, the long spear was destroyed by the sword qi. It broke into countless pieces and floated in the sky. The old man frowned and waved his hand, for spatial tears appeared behind him. For long swords flew out from the space and shot towards the sword qi in an attempt to stop it. Interesting. You clearly possess the specter martial spirit, but you seem to have mastered a secret space technique. You can store so many treasures. Interesting. Ling Xiao smiled and pointed with his left hand. The sword of slaughter floating above his head flew out. In just an instant, the 4 long swords were smashed into pieces. Then, the sword of slaughter pierced through the old man's body and nailed him to the wall. The specter martial soul behind him also let out a blood-curdling scream before it disappeared. Blood flowed down from the wall. The old man looked like he was on his last breath. This scene was strange and cruel. When the warriors of the Sky Sea Alliance saw this, they were first horrified. Then they became angry and determined. "Everyone, listen to me. Let's fight it out with him. Since we can't survive, we might as well die bravely." Someone shouted. Dozens of warriors of the Sky Sea Alliance rushed towards Ling Xiao at the same time. Ling Xiao didn't even move. Just as the dozens of people rose into the air, dozens of black shadows emerged from the void and pierced their throats. They were like corpses hanging from a book. They were all horrified. They fought so hard, but they didn't even have a chance to get close to Ling Xiao. The difference in strength was so huge. "Your Majesty, let me kill that person." A soldier stepped out from the Divine Phoenix Guard and walked towards Ling Xiao. "I have an irreconcilable enmity with this person. I beg for your Majesty's permission." However, Ling Xiao only glanced at him and suddenly slapped him with his palm. A white light shot out from the Divine Phoenix Guard's body and fled into the crowd. What a sinister martial spirit. After losing its host, it can actually possess someone else. But do you think you can escape? Ling Xiao smiled coldly and tossed the unconscious Divine Phoenix Guard to someone else. Then he waved his hand. A ball of black light appeared in his hand and quickly formed a terrifying black hole. 12 shadow esoteric meanings. Dark prison. As the dark prison formed, the specter was instantly sucked in. It turned into Ling Xiao's soul power. Ling Xiao disintegrated martial spirits that he didn't need and turned them into his own soul power. This was the only way his soul power could become stronger. "Senior brother, I'll leave the rest to the Divine Phoenix Guard." I don't need anyone alive. After Ling Xiao killed the old man, there were no more warriors in the Sky Sea Alliance that could threaten the Divine Phoenix Guard. This matter could be easily resolved if he left it to them. Ling Xiao still had to study the Sea Tribe. After dealing with the Sky Sea Alliance, it was time to deal with the Sea Tribe. He had to deal with things, one by one. His enemies also had to be dealt with in order. After dealing with the internal problems, it would be time for Ling Xiao to fight the Silver Fox Empire. Originally, he had planned to wait for a period of time until his cultivation had advanced to the Rebirth Realm before he went to conquer the White Tiger continent. However, the Silver Fox Empire's attack forced him to bring forward his plan. It didn't matter. Chapter 2048. The battle was still going on in Divine Phoenix City. Ling Xiao had just returned to the Imperial Palace and was planning to catch up with a few close friends before discussing how to deal with the Sea Race and the Silver Fox Empire. Xie Li, Feng Ming, Piao Shui, Lan Yu, Dai Yuling, Dai Yaoling, Ling Luo, Hai Mian Ko, and so on. These were all his friends who resided in Divine Phoenix City. Xie Li's cultivation was the most terrifying. She was already at the 16th level of the Yin-Yang realm. Even so, her cultivation was much higher than Ling Xiao's in the past. But now, she was completely surpassed by Ling Xiao. It was quite sad. The friends gathered and ate delicious food while talking about what had happened to them these days. At this moment, a war beast suddenly collapsed outside the city gate. The soldier on the war beast was covered in blood. He was obviously seriously injured. The soldiers guarding the city hurried over to help him up and asked about the situation. "It's urgent." The seriously injured soldier grabbed the soldiers guarding the city and said these words. Then, as if he had relaxed, his head tilted and he fainted. The soldiers guarding the city reported this to their superiors. Their superiors knew that the situation was urgent. They ordered people to bring the fainted soldier to the Imperial Palace with the urgent military report. The report quickly reached the Imperial Palace. Ling Xiao stood up abruptly and apologized. With a flash of his figure, he dashed out. Under normal circumstances, urgent military reports would only be sent if there was a great crisis at the border. The others followed him out. "Yuling, Yaoling, I'll have to trouble you too. Give him the best treatment. You must keep him alive." These two were now working in the Imperial Hospital of the Celestial Empire, so Ling Xiao naturally believed in their medical skills. Understood. Dai Yuling, Dai Yaoling, and Lan Yu hurried to save him. Ling Xiao took out the military report and read it. The Silver Fox Empire and the Tianhai Empire suddenly attacked Black Crow City together with the Sea Race. Black Crow City is now in danger. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers are in danger. Please send reinforcements. Black Crow City's city lord, Border General Shengguan Hong. Ling Xiao read out the military report. What? Upon hearing the battle report, Qin Hua immediately grew anxious. His cultivation had yet to recover. However, it should be known that he was one of the generals in charge of guarding Black Crow City, subordinate to Shangguan Hong. "Qin Hua, your injuries have not healed completely. Don't worry." Ling Xiao lowered his head, thinking about the reason for the sudden outbreak of this war. Clearly, his return to the Heavenly Dynasty Empire was the fuse. The other party could not wait any longer. Not only had the Silver Fox Empire joined forces with the Sea Race, but even the Tianhai Empire had joined in. Black Raven City had become a dangerous trap. These people wanted him to go there. If he didn't go, he would be breaking his promise to the people of the Empire. How could he still be the Celestial Darch? He was simply a coward. In the future, within the Celestial Empire, there would probably be no martial artists who would believe the bold words he had once said. If he went, it would be a trap, and he might not be able to save Shangguan Hong and the hundreds of thousands of soldiers in Black Raven City. Even he might die there. How should he choose? Ling Xiao abruptly looked in the direction of Black Raven City. "Xie Li, listen to my order. I order you to guard Divine Phoenix City and assist Wu Xiang. You must not rashly mobilize the army of divine Phoenix City. Ling Shao said loudly. This subordinate obeys. Xie Li understood that Ling Shao was worried that this was a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain. If divine Phoenix City was not heavily guarded, the other party was likely to come here. All of you stay here and perform your duties. Brother Fan, let's go to Black Raven City. Do you dare to come with me? Ling Shao did not want to mobilize any other forces because he was almost certain that this was a conspiracy. If he mobilized the army of other places, the sea race would take advantage of this opportunity to invade. Therefore, he did not plan to bring many people to Black Raven City this time. Only Fan Ruahai was enough. What's there to be afraid of? You gave me my life. Fan Ruahai smiled. Just now, I heard that the Tianhai Empire also participated in this battle. This time I'll have a good fight. I'll kill a few Tianhai bastards to avenge my brother. Good brother. I, Ling Shao, did not misjudge you. The friendship between Ling Shao and Fan Ruahai grew from nothing to something. After numerous battles of life and death, they gradually became friends who would die for each other. Your Majesty, I'm afraid this is not appropriate. The two of you will have to face thousands of soldiers and horses. There may be powerful enemies waiting to ambush you. I'm afraid this trip will be extremely dangerous. Xia Li hurriedly said. There's no need to discuss this matter. Hundreds of thousands of lives in Black Raven City are waiting for us to save. Even if it's a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, I must go. Shang Guanhong is my good brother, and those soldiers at the border are also fighting for me. Ling Shao. How can I abandon them? Ling Shao waved his hand. When Wu Xiang comes back, tell him not to act rashly. Guard divine Phoenix City well and pay close attention to the nearby movements. Tell him that this is an order and there's no room for discussion. After saying this, Ling Shao immediately broke through the air and flew away. Fan Ruahai followed closely behind. The two of them did not even want the airship. Although the airship could conserve internal energy, how could it possibly be faster than the two of them? The two life seizers didn't care if it was day or night, and as they flew along, they caught sight of another messenger. Without any hesitation, they intercepted the messenger. Your Majesty! The messenger was also covered with wounds, clearly having been pulled out of a slaughterhouse. What's the situation? Ling Shao asked. The enemy is too strong. We fought with everything we had, but we still suffered heavy losses. The messenger gripped Ling Zhao's legs tightly. General Xian tried to assassinate an enemy commander in the middle of the night, but was captured and killed. General Meng Tong went to rescue General Xian and died with honor. Hundreds of other brave soldiers died with him that said their deaths weren't in vain. Before General Xian and General Meng Tong died, they set fire to the enemy encampment, which put a stop to the enemy's advance. I'm guessing they'll be able to buy us a day or two. They were all very brave. Even in death, they didn't surrender to the enemy. Good men. Although it was an honor, Ling Shao felt pain in his heart when he heard it. A heart-wrenching pain. He had rescued Meng Tong and Xian from Pipa Island, and from that moment on, they had been comrades in life and death. They had participated in a series of battles, including the destruction of the new True Devil Empire, the defeat of the Divine Phoenix Empire, and the Black Crow Empire. They had outstanding military service and were loyal and devoted to Ling Shao. Most importantly, they were very special friends to Ling Shao. They were people who had stuck by his side when he was in trouble. Although their cultivation bases could not keep up with the geniuses and rising stars of the younger generation, they were still cautious and conscientious in the service of the empire. They were guarding the border for Ling Shao. Chapter 2049. Ling Shao had once asked Meng Tong and Xian if they wanted to find something safe and relaxing to do so that they could live more comfortably, but both of them had refused. They liked the feeling of fighting on the battlefield and guarding the borders for Ling Shao. They said that if everyone wanted to live a comfortable life, who would be willing to guard the borders? It was precisely because they were Ling Zhao's friends that they were more willing to do so. Their voices were still echoing in Ling Zhao's ears, as if it were yesterday. "Have their bodies been recovered?" At this moment, Ling Zhao appeared very calm, so calm that it was frightening. Fan Ruohai understood that Ling Zhao's anger had reached its limit. An intense anger was suppressed in his heart. The moment they arrived at Black Raven City, Ling Zhao's anger would completely erupt. Hateful! The two generals' bodies were hung in front of the two armies, exposed to the scorching sun. They were eaten by the black crows. It was simply too horrible to look at. They declared that the martial artists of the Heavenly Dynasty Empire were all trash, unable to even take back the two generals' bodies. The soldiers wanted to kill their way out of the city. At worst, they would die in battle, but they couldn't bear it. However, City Lord Shangguan stopped them. The messenger said again, "You did the right thing. Shangguan Hong did the right thing." Ling Zhao gnashed his teeth as he spoke. Blood flowed out from the gaps between his teeth and dripped onto the ground. He felt as if his heart was being stabbed. He swore that he would let the Sea Race, the Silver Fox Empire, and the Tianhai Empire taste pain 1,000 times worse than this. He wants the Tianhai Empire and the Silver Fox Empire to be completely wiped out. Find a place to rest. There's no need to send a message back. Brother Fan, let's go. Ling Zhao looked at the sky and broke through it, his speed even faster than before. The air was filled with dense killing intent. Fan Ruohai followed, closely behind. He knew that the enemy's goal was very simple. They wanted to kill Ling Zhao. He also knew that Ling Zhao was well aware of this, but he set off without hesitation. This was the responsibility of an emperor. It was the duty of a loyal friend. There was nothing wrong with becoming friends with Ling Zhao. Perhaps one day, when I'm in trouble, I won't be afraid that no one will avenge me. Fan Ruohai smiled. He was even more determined to join forces with Ling Zhao. Outside Black Raven City, corpses were everywhere. There were the corpses of the Allied forces, as well as the corpses of the Heavenly Empire soldiers. Two of the corpses were hung high in the air about a mile away from Black Raven City. Everyone could see them clearly. The corpse was already in tatters, narrating the pain and torture it had suffered. In Black Raven City, not a single soldier was in good condition. Everyone was injured. In order to protect the city and prevent the Allied army from invading and harming the tens of millions of civilians behind the city walls, Black Raven City had to be protected. They were all doing their best. None of them were cowards. The original 200,000 soldiers, plus the 300,000 reinforcements from the nearby cities. Out of a total of 500,000 soldiers, only about 100,000 remained. But they still refused to back down. More of the enemy had died, so they thought that even if they died now, it would be worth it. Relying on the breathing time bought by Xian and Mengyong's life, the soldiers were working hard to repair the city walls, preparing for the final battle. On the city wall, Shangguan Hong's head was wrapped in a white cloth, but it was already dyed red by the blood that seeped out. His armor was broken in many places, and there were hundreds of terrible wounds on his body. An ordinary person would have been dead by now, but Shangguan Hong was not dead. On the contrary, he was still using his last breath to command the battle. The longer he could hold on, the more hope he had. Beside him was a female general, dressed in a bright red battle robe. It was unknown whether it was originally red or dyed red by blood. Surprisingly, there was no fear in her eyes. Instead, they were filled with determination. She was Shangguan Hong's junior sister. It was Ling Zhao who had rescued her from the enchanted island of the sacred dynasty. Since then, she had been by Shangguan Hong's side. Wherever Shangguan Hong went, she would follow. She had never complained about it. On the other side was another female general. She used to live in this black desert and was also rescued by Ling Zhao. Since then, she had changed her name and called herself Ling Sha. Ling wanted to remember her benefactor, Ling Zhao. Sha wanted to remember that she lived here. Ling Sha's injuries were not lighter than Shangguan Hong's. but the stubborn woman refused to back down. The three of them looked at the two tortured corpses in the distance, their hearts full of anger. "City Lord, since we can't hold on anymore, why don't we just kill our way out? No matter what, we can't let the corpses of the two generals continue to be humiliated." Ling Sha's temper was more violent, so even if she understood Shangguan Hong's thoughts, she still could not stand her own people being tortured like this. "Senior brother, let's kill our way out and fight those sons of bitches." Shangguan Hong's junior sister also said. Since she came to Black Raven City, Meng Tong and Xian had taken good care of her. How could she bear to see these two generals hung on the high flagpoles and exposed to the scorching sun all day long, eaten by the black crows? What's there to be afraid of? We're not afraid. City Lord, please make up your mind. We don't want to be cowards. Even if we die in battle, we won't compromise like this. Kill our way out. General, kill. The nearby soldiers were all shouting loudly. Everyone's eyes seemed to be filled with blood. Shangguan Hong looked ahead indifferently. When everyone's emotions calmed down, he said indifferently, "If you have this strength, why don't you think about how to deal with the enemy's next attack? Isn't it easy to die? Even if you die, you should die with value. But, City Lord, are you just going to ignore the two generals like this? Shut up." Shangguan Hong looked coldly at the person who spoke and said, "Don't you understand my words? Whoever dares to disobey the military order, I'll let him die now, as long as you don't think it's useless to die like this." Although he was very young, he had never dared to slack off since Ling Shao gave him the responsibility of guarding Black Raven City. From the beginning, everyone was dissatisfied. Until now, every order was strictly enforced. He had spent a long time working hard. Here, everyone knew his temper. If he said to kill, then he would definitely kill. He would never be soft-hearted. Although the soldiers were not afraid of death, it was too useless to die in the hands of their own people. They would rather die on the battlefield. Pass down the order. Hurry up and repair the city wall. Organize the supplies. Later, you will have a chance to fight. Even if you don't want to, you can't escape. Seeing that everyone was silent, Shangguan Hong immediately issued a second order. Yes, the soldiers who received the order continued to busy themselves with the work at hand. However, at this time, people suddenly saw a figure rushing in the direction of the flagpole. "It's a civilian warrior," Ling Sha shouted in surprise. "Come back." Shangguan Hong was anxious. He could obey orders in the army, but he really couldn't control these civilian warriors. There was no way to control them. Chapter 2050. These civilian warriors were well taken care of by the army, especially Meng Tong and Xian, who often helped them deal with bandits and gave them a lot of cultivation resources. They were highly respected among the people. These civilian warriors thought that the army was a bunch of cowards, so they wanted to take the bodies of the two generals themselves. After the first figure rushed out, 4 or 5 more figures followed. They had taken a detour from the side of Black Raven City in order to obtain the 2 corpses of the 2 generals. "Quick, open the city gates and stop them." Shangguan Hong was anxious. "It's too late." Ling Sha sighed. The moment the 6 people approached the flagpole, they were all killed by the terrifying sword Qi released by the opposite side. When he died, he didn't even leave behind a complete corpse. The black crows landed on their corpses and began to feast happily on them. Shangguan Hong's heart was bleeding. All the soldiers' hearts were bleeding, although they knew that this was a battlefield, a war, and it was so cruel. But when faced with this scene, they still couldn't control their emotions. They were filled with grief and indignation. Rumble! Suddenly the earth shook. The sky seemed to be shaking with it. The terrible sound of war. Drums resounded through the sky like thunder. Everyone looked at this scene in horror. The black mass of the army was about to attack again. Hurry up and recover. Today, I, Shangguan Hong, am willing to fight to the death with all of you in Black Raven City. I will never retreat. Who dares to stand with me? Me. The furious roar that soared into the sky represented the will of all the soldiers. At this moment, no one flinched. Even though they were afraid, their anger had drowned out their fear. Their only thought now was to die in Black Raven City. They would never drag out an ignoble existence. Good job, all of you. Get ready to fight. Shangguan Hong's blood-soaked appearance seemed to be even more handsome and tall than before. This caused the eyes of his junior sister, who was standing at the side, to sparkle a lot more. Ling Sha, when the battle starts, you leave here. Shangguan Hong suddenly said to Ling Sha on the other side. Why? Ling Sha was puzzled. Someone has to stay and tell His Majesty the situation here. Even if His Majesty wants to avenge us, he has to know who is attacking Black Raven City and who is against us. Shangguan Hong's reason was very good. I'm not leaving. If you want to leave, let your junior sister go. She's not as strong as me. I'll be of greater help if I stay. Ling Sha shook her head. Although Shangguan Hong's reason didn't sound wrong, she couldn't be a deserter. I'm not leaving either. I want to be with senior brother. Be it in life or in death, we'll be together. Shangguan Hong's junior sister also shook her head resolutely. Ling Sha, I'm not discussing this with you. This is an order. Do you want to disobey a military order? Shangguan Hong said angrily, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. If you don't leave later, I'll kill you first. With that, he no longer looked at Ling Sha. Instead, he looked at the approaching army in the distance. There was no chance of survival in this battle. He really wanted to leave someone behind to tell Ling Xiao about the bravery of these soldiers. And Ling Sha was someone that Ling Xiao had saved. She was someone that Ling Xiao was familiar with. She was the most suitable person to go. A sound like muffled thunder rolled across the earth. The black mass of soldiers numbered more than 1,000,000. There were also many terrifying war beasts among them. These war beasts were all above the Yinyang realm. This was definitely a terrifying force that couldn't be ignored. They trampled on the battlefield, trampling the corpses on the battlefield. On the city wall, the soldiers of Black Raven City gritted their teeth and waited. 100,000 against 1,000,000. The difference in numbers was too great. Moreover, the enemy had many experts. They could only rely on Black Raven City's array to fight against the enemy. If they left the city, there would only be one result. They would all be wiped out. Attack when the enemy is close. Without my order, no one is allowed to take the initiative to attack. Shangguan Hong knew very well that they didn't have many resources left. The array could only sustain less than 20 attacks. They were also seriously short of arrows. The soldiers had also used up a lot of their internal strength. Therefore, the current situation was really troublesome. If they couldn't make use of the situation appropriately, they would really have to wait for death. Standing on the city wall, Shangguan Hong looked at the black mass of soldiers in the distance and let out a long sigh. Ling Xiao, my good brother, I, Shangguan Hong, have let you down. I couldn't protect your brother and the city you gave me. But don't worry. Even if the city falls, I won't retreat. I will fight to the death here. A cold gaze shone from his eyes. He took a bow and arrow and nocked an arrow. Once the arrow was fired, the battle would begin. He was waiting for an opportunity. The enemy was getting closer and closer. He could already make out their faces. The allied army of the Sea Race, the Silver Fox Empire, and the Tianhai Empire. What a massive lineup! Kill! Shangguan Hong suddenly roared. The arrow in his hand flew through the air and exploded in the middle of the enemy formation. Tensome soldiers were instantly pulverized. Kill! 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 Black Raven City was filled with war cries. The soldiers roared as countless arrows, sword chi, and saber chi flew through the air. As long as it was a long-range attack, they would use it. At the same time, Black Raven City's spell formation was in full swing, reaping the lives of its enemies. Originally, the Allied army had more than 3,000,000 soldiers, while Black Raven City had more than 500,000. But now the Allied army had lost nearly 2,000,000 soldiers, while Black Raven City had lost roughly 400,000. The reason for such a massive loss was because of the terrifying spell formation. Ling Xiao had personally designed the spell formation, and it had been modified by the top spell formation experts of the Ministry of Works. It was so powerful that it could even kill Yin-Yang realm experts. Without it, Shan Guanhong and his men would never have been able to defend Black Raven City. "Don't be afraid," Shan Guanhong said. "Their spell formation can't be unlimited. Kill them. Kill them all." The commander of the Allied army was a general from the Silver Fox Empire. She was a female general named Qingqiu Lian. Qingqiu Lian was in the 15th stage of life seizing. Next to her were two subordinates. One was a 5th stage life seizing general from the Sea Folk. The other was a 6th stage life seizing general from the Tianhai Empire. In addition to them, Qin Yu, Xian Yi, and over 100 other life seizers had recently joined the army. Although Black Raven City's spell formation could kill Yin-Yang realm experts, it couldn't do anything to an expert like Qin Yu. Qin Yu stepped through the air toward the city walls. The black tortoise jewel inside of him unleashed terrifying power, causing an ocean to appear behind him. The terrifying waves slammed into the city walls, causing them to tremble. Chapter 2051. Thanks to Qin Yu's relentless assault, the army reached the city gates and began to slam into them. When Shan Guanhong saw what was happening, he knew that he didn't have long to live. There was no sorrow on his face, only determination. Kill! Some of the enemy soldiers had already climbed onto the city walls and were beginning to engage in close combat. Qin Yu didn't join the fight. He was waiting for Ling Xiao to arrive. This was the perfect opportunity to kill Ling Xiao, and he didn't want to let it go. He had to be in top condition. That said, even if Qin Yu didn't attack, the life seizers at his side were just as terrifying. A dozen or so figures shot through the air like birds toward the city gates. They didn't use scaling ladders, but instead flew up into the air toward the city walls. Life seizers were as rare as phoenix feathers and qilin horns in the Heavenly Dynasty. After all, before Ling Xiao had taken first place in the White Tiger meet and broken through to the life-seizing level, the magical laws of the Dragon Phoenix continent only permitted cultivators in the 18th level of Yin-Yang. Now that Ling Xiao had broken through to the life-seizing level, the magical laws of the Dragon Phoenix continent had improved as well. However, that was too short a time, which was very disadvantageous for the Dragon Phoenix continent. Once the White Tiger continent arrived, as long as they were below the rebirth level, they wouldn't need to suffer any losses. Perhaps that was one of the reasons why the Allied forces had suddenly launched a large-scale attack. Ha ha ha! Die! Maniacal laughter rang out from the city walls as one of the life seizers unleashed a palm strike that instantly killed 4 soldiers. The soldiers were only in the Grotto Heaven realm and were only in the Deva realm. Even if they were in the Yin-Yang realm, they wouldn't have any advantage over life seizers. In front of them, the only path left for them was death. Ha 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 ha! Die! 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 Maniacal laughter rang out as the life seizers reaped the lives of the soldiers. Killing people was as easy as slaughtering chickens. The sight of it caused Shan Guanhong's heart to ache. He raised his sword, and the rainbow martial soul appeared behind him. Shan Guanhong knew that he wasn't a match for his enemies, but he couldn't just stand by and watch his subordinates die. Currently, his cultivation base was at the 13th level of the Yin-Yang stage. Although he hadn't followed Ling Xiao to the White Tiger store meet, he hadn't stopped his own cultivation either. Kill! Shan Guanhong stabbed out with her sword, sending out a stream of cold sword energy and killing intent. In the blink of an eye, she stabbed into one of the first stage life seizers. That person was crazily slaughtering and did not pay attention to the attacks around him, because he didn't believe that anyone here could hurt him. But Shan Guanhong did it. He had used all his strength to injure the other party. Damn it! You're the governor of Black Raven City, aren't you? Fine. I'll take your head and make a great contribution. The first stage life sizer looked down at the wounds on his body, but didn't seem to care at all. Although he was injured, his life was not in danger. He wanted Shangguan Hong to pay the price. Protect the city lord. Someone shouted, and a dozen soldiers appeared in front of Shangguan Hong at the same time. They were Shangguan Hong's personal guards, and their mission was to protect him from death. A bunch of trash. You think you can stop me? The life-sizer laughed disdainfully, then struck out with both palms. The dozen or so soldiers died instantly. The only thing their deaths could do was prolong Shangguan Hong's life. Ha 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 ha. The first stage life-sizer laughed maniacally. He loved the feeling of slaughter. However, when the dozen or so corpses fell to the ground, Shangguan Hong was nowhere to be seen. He couldn't help but stare in shock. Then he felt a sharp pain in his neck as a sword stabbed into it. I won't let my soldiers die for nothing. Shangguan Hong's cold voice rang out in the first stage life-sizer's ears. The life-sizer was basically a yin-yang stage cultivator. Because of that, there was no fundamental difference between a yin-yang stage cultivator and a yin-yang stage cultivator. The only difference was that their internal energy was stronger and their bodies were tougher. Even a first-stage yin-yang stage cultivator would be able to kill them as long as they had a weak point. Shangguan Hong took advantage of the opponent's weakness and launched a fatal blow when the opponent underestimated her. She stabbed the sharp blade into the opponent's throat. Screw off! With his throat pierced, the first-stage life-sizer's life force began to drain away, but he didn't die immediately. He punched out at Shangguan Hong. However, Shangguan Hong suddenly pulled out his sword and retreated. As soon as the sword was drawn, blood spurted out of the life-sizer's throat about a meter into the air. And yet he didn't die, and instead struggled to his feet. It was at this point that the nearby soldiers charged forward, and a dozen or so of them slashed at him with their swords and sabers. A first-stage life-sizer was being cut to pieces by a group of Grotto Heaven and Deva Realm cultivators. This was a battlefield. It was completely different from a battle between martial artists. Even if one was a powerhouse, the slightest carelessness could result in an extremely aggrieved death. How dare you kill someone from the Black Tortoise Temple? You must be tired of living. Off in the distance, another life-sizer looked over at Shangguan Hong, his eyes burning with the desire to kill. You're right. Nonsense. We're all going to die anyway. Killing one is breaking even. Killing two is a profit. Shangguan Hong spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva, staring coldly at the cultivator. At this point, Black Raven City could no longer be saved. He was determined to stick to his original plan and live or die with the city. If he could kill a life-sizer right before he died, then he would have made a huge profit. Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. The life-sizer charged forward. Shangguan Hong hurriedly raised his sword to block. A terrifying force slammed into him, sending him flying backward. However, Shangguan Hong scrambled to his feet and charged forward again. Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying explosion rang out nearby. It attracted everyone's attention. One of Black Raven City's deputy generals had detonated a Thunderbolt fire bullet. The Thunderbolt fire bullet had been improved by the Heavenly Dynasty's Ministry of Works and was terrifyingly powerful. Although it couldn't kill a life-sizer, it was enough to leave him covered in wounds. The rest of the soldiers took advantage of the opportunity to charge forward and hack him to death. Heroic feats like this were repeated over and over again. In the end, they were nothing more than heroic acts on the brink of death. Although they could inspire morale, they didn't affect the outcome of the battle. The bloody battlefield seemed even more desolate than before. Kill that Shangguan Hong. They will collapse without a fight. Someone roared. Unexpectedly, two more life-seizers were charging toward Shangguan Hong. All three of them were life-seizers, and Shangguan Hong couldn't even fight back. The three of them revealed ferocious smiles and attacked from different angles. Chapter 2052. The three life-seizers were closing in on Shangguan Hong, sealing off any path of escape. They were determined to kill Shangguan Hong with this attack. Bring it on. I'll die with you. Shangguan lips twisted into a cold smile, and his eyes shone with madness and determination. When the 3 life seizers were less than a meter away from him, Shangguan ripped open his armor and ignited the fuses for his thunderclap, lightning fire bullets. There were dozens of improved thunderclap, thunderfire bullets hanging from his body, from top to bottom and from his back to his front. Even a life-sizer would be blasted to shreds by such a force. When the 3 life seizers saw what was happening, they were shocked. Unfortunately, they were too close to Shangguan and couldn't get out of the way quickly. All they could do was watch as they got closer and closer to Shangguan. The fuses of the thunderclap, lightning fire bullets were getting shorter and shorter. "Ling Xiao!" he cried. "Farewell, brother!" Shangguan looked up into the sky, his voice filled with grief and indignation. However, it was at this point that a black dot appeared in front of him. It was a black dot, and it was falling toward him at top speed. In the blink of an eye, it was right above his head. At this point, he could clearly see what the black dot looked like. "Ling Xiao!" Shangguan cried, both shocked and delighted. "Brother, I'm here to save you. Don't be in such a hurry to die." Ling Xiao smiled and then flickered into motion, extinguishing the fuses of the thunderclap, lightning fire bullets and saving Shangguan from the encirclement of the 3 life seizers. Life and death were separated by a hair's breadth. Everyone breathed sighs of relief. "Reinforcements are here. His Majesty the Celestial Emperor is here." Wild, excited cries rang out throughout Black Crow City. They had all watched the live broadcast of the White Tiger Storm meet and knew that their emperor was incredibly powerful. At the very least, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage against a life-sizer. And now that the emperor was here, he would definitely bring reinforcements. They were saved. Black Crow City was saved. Although they weren't afraid of death, they didn't want to die in such a cowardly manner. "Ha ha ha, he's here, he's really here." In the enemy formation, Qin Yu revealed an excited smile. "Qingqiu Lian, in a moment, let's join hands to kill Ling Xiao. We can ignore everything else as long as we kill Ling Xiao. This heavenly empire will be crippled." "Understood." Qingqiu Lian also knew of Ling Xiao's influence in the Celestial Empire, although this heavenly emperor usually didn't care about worldly affairs. He was the symbol of the entire Celestial Empire. "Why are you here personally?" Shangguan looked at Ling Xiao anxiously and asked, "Don't you know how dangerous this place is? Wu Xiang is really something. How could he send you to your death?" He only knew of Ling Xiao's strength during the White Tiger Storm meet, but he did not know how strong Ling Xiao had become after that. Therefore, he was very worried. So what if Ling Xiao came? In the end, he was still going to die in vain. How could I not come when a good brother of mine is in danger? Ling Xiao grabbed Shangguan hand and helped him up. Then he looked at the 2 corpses on the flagpole in the distance and said, "How can I not take revenge when my closest comrades were trampled upon like this?" "Fine. How many people did you bring?" Shangguan looked off into the distance, but didn't see any reinforcements. "Including me, 2 people in total." Ling Xiao said coolly, "What? Am I crazy or are you crazy? You only brought 2 people to help? I really don't know what to say to you. Are you here to die?" Shangguan howled. Ling Xiao smiled. The fact that he could hear his good brothers howl meant that he wasn't seriously injured. "Take care of your elder brother," he said. "Leave the rest to me." Ling Xiao handed Shangguan over to his junior sister, then turned to face the 3 life seizers. 2 were in the first stage of life seizing, and 1 was in the second stage. Shangguan opened his mouth to say something, but then he suddenly realized something. Looking from the back, Ling Xiao's figure seemed to have become even taller than before, but this was not important. What was important was that he could trust the aura of this body. Shangguan swallowed all of the words he wanted to say. Right, he thought. I almost forgot about his personality. He's not the type to do anything impulsive. If he dares to come for revenge, then he must be confident. Shang Guanhong decided to wait and see. If Ling Xiao was really in danger, then he would go all out to save him. Screw off! Ling Xiao stood at the top of the city wall and suddenly roared. The terrifying voice exploded outside the city gate tower like a sudden clap of thunder. The soldiers who had just reached the top of the city walls began to bleed from their eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Those who weren't dead were knocked unconscious, and some of them fled in terror. The only ones who remained were the 12 life-seizers. All of them were looking at Ling Xiao. They knew that he was the source of their courage. If they could kill him, Black Raven City would fall, and the entire heavenly dynasty would be destroyed. Ling Xiao stared coldly at the 12 men. The strongest of the group was in the 3rd stage of life-seizing, while the rest were either in the 1st or 2nd stage. If this had been the white tiger meat, Ling Xiao would have had a headache dealing with them. But now, these people were not even worth mentioning in his eyes. Today he would become a devil ghost and devour all of his enemies. His gaze was so cold that the 12 life-seizers couldn't help but shiver. All of a sudden, they thought back to how Ling Xiao had killed Overseer Rubik's Cube. This kid definitely wasn't going to be easy to deal with. Attack together, one of them said. The 12 of them joined forces to fight back against Ling Xiao's terrifying devil will. Black energy swirled around Ling Xiao, and he radiated intense killing intent. A devil's sword of darkness appeared out of nowhere. The terrifying blade of the sword pulsed with terrifying devil will, causing the 12 men to feel as if they were in hell itself. All of a sudden, they felt as if they were surrounded by sword energy. Everything around them was devilish. It was almost as if they had been locked in place and couldn't move at all. Blood for blood. Die. Ling Xiao's cold voice rang out. In that instant, boundless aura of darkness surged out from the devil sword. Terrifying sword energy filled the entire area. Devil's sword of darkness. God's soul extermination. A black gust of wind blew between the heavens and the earth. In the eyes of the 12 people, there was only fear left. They had known that Ling Xiao was terrifying, but now that they were facing him, they realized how terrifying Ling Xiao was. This young man was even more terrifying than they had imagined. The wind blew past. The killing intent dissipated. By the time the black smoke faded away, the 12 men had been reduced to a cloud of blood and gore that rained down onto the Allied forces. Countless black crows flew over and began to devour the corpses. This scene was so soul-stirring. It was completely terrifying. Everyone was in complete shock, even the soldiers of Black Raven City. Initially, when they heard that there were only 2 reinforcements, they had despaired. However, at this moment, they realized that there were only 2 reinforcements. Chapter 2053. The power of a single sword strike was enough to shake heaven and earth. Everyone stared in shock at the chunks of flesh and blood falling from the sky. It was almost as if they had forgotten that they were on a cruel battlefield and had forgotten about their injuries. Ling Xiao, what a terrifying young man. He had killed 12 life-seizers with a single sword strike. That was more shocking than an army of 1,000,000 soldiers. Just how strong was he? Shang Guanhong looked at Ling Xiao's back, and although he wasn't particularly burly, he was like a shield standing in front of everyone, shielding them from any danger. Everyone in Black Crow City suddenly felt a sense of security. Shang Guanhong shook his head with a wry smile. He had been worried that Ling Xiao had come here to throw his life away, but now it seemed he had been overthinking things. All of a sudden, he thought back to when Ling Xiao had first arrived in the God Phoenix Empire. Back then, he had been nothing more than an insignificant deva. He had been so insignificant that Shang Guanhong hadn't even noticed him. However, not long after, his arm was chopped off by Ling Xiao's sword. Of course, it wasn't an exchange of blows that led to friendship. After that incident, Shang Guanhong and Ling Xiao had become friends. Ling Xiao had healed his severed arm. From that point on, Shang Guanhong had been paying close attention to Ling Xiao's growth and had been shocked by how quickly he had progressed. Even still, Shang Guanhong could never have imagined that a 17-year-old Ling Xiao would be able to kill 12 life seizers with a single sword strike. It was like a volcano had erupted in Shang Guanhong's heart, and it took him a long time to calm down. The gap between them was growing wider and wider. That said, His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven was becoming more and more competent. All soldiers heed my orders. Do not engage in battle without permission. Leave it to His Majesty the Emperor of Heaven. Shang Guanhong gave a very strange order. However, almost everyone felt that there was nothing wrong with this order. The battle was now between Ling Xiao and the Allied army, and had nothing to do with them. Rumble! All of a sudden, a massive boom rang out from the enemy camp, and hundreds of soldiers were sent flying into the air. The 2 corpses on the flagpole were nowhere to be seen. Brother Ling is too much. How could he be the only one in the limelight? Fan Ruahai carried the 2 corpses back to Black Raven City. Brother Fan, leave today's battle to me. Please help me take care of the people in Black Raven City. I will repay you in the future. Ling Xiao glanced at Meng Tong and Xian's corpses. Their faces were already unrecognizable, but because they were too familiar, he knew that these 2 were his good comrades, good brothers. His voice was as cold as the 9 hells' cold spring. His heart was bleeding. All right. Fan Ruahai knew that Ling Xiao needed to vent. If he didn't, he would suffocate to death. Therefore, he nodded in agreement. Ling Xiao took out a large number of healing pills from his storage ring and gave them to Ling Sha, saying, "Give them to the warriors who are seriously injured first. I don't want any more soldiers to die in Black Raven City." Yes, Ling Sha nodded. Even now, she still doubted how Ling Xiao would be able to face the million-strong Alliance army alone. However, she was still willing to follow Ling Xiao's orders. After all, Ling Xiao had saved her life in the past and had displayed incredible strength. By this point, the Alliance army had retreated quite a distance. Black Raven City and the Alliance army were separated by roughly half a kilometer of empty land. Countless corpses were piled up on top of each other, as if they were telling of the cruelty of victory. Qin Yu, Qingqiu Lian, and the other sea folk and Sky Sea Empire generals all stared coldly at Ling Xiao. He wants to fight our million-strong army all by himself? What do you think? Qin Yu asked with a cold laugh. He's looking to die, Qingqiu Lian said coldly. That's right. He's looking to die, the other 2 said. Qin Yu, you know him well. What do you think we should do? Qingqiu Lian asked. For now, let's just attack together. With hundreds of life seizers, plus the 2 of us, killing him should be easy. As for the ordinary soldiers, tell them to fall back. They'll just be throwing their lives away and will only hinder us. Qin Yu thought for a moment. All right, Qingqiu Lian gave the order, and the army fell back 100 meters. Only the life seizers remained at the front of the formation. With Qin Yu and Qingqiu Lian in the lead, there were a total of 467 soldiers. Without the protection of the spell formations, they could easily destroy the entire Celestial Dynasty. After all, other than Ling Xiao and a few other people, the Celestial Dynasty didn't have many life seizers. Thankfully, Ling Xiao was an expert in spell formations and had given the Ministry of Works a large number of spell formation diagrams. They were used in virtually every city and could be used to defend against bandits and demonlings. When large-scale battles broke out, they could be used to defend against invaders. Ling Xiao, Qingqiu Lian said, your growth is truly astonishing. You can't live any longer. If you do, we won't be able to survive. Qin Yu rose into the air and looked at Ling Xiao coldly as he said, Today is the day you die. Ling Xiao didn't respond. Instead, the aura of darkness around him grew stronger and stronger. Down on the battlefield, terrifying, baleful blood energy flowed into him. Rumble. Terrifying rumbling sounds filled the air. In that instant, Ling Xiao had accumulated enough power to transform into a heavenly devil war god. He had long silver hair, silver devilish eyes, pitch-black devilish wings, and a terrifying devilish sword. What a terrifying devil god! He stood there in the air, looking down coldly at everything in front of him. A powerful devilish will erupted, enveloping the enemy forces. As of this moment, the millions of soldiers felt nauseous and dizzy. They began to tremble violently, almost as if they had been grabbed by a ghost and couldn't move at all. "What's going on?" Qingqiu Lian asked, looking at Ling Xiao in terror. Only now did she realize what sort of person she had offended. "Retreat," Qin Yu said, turning to flee, leaving everyone behind, including his fellow disciples from the Black Tortoise Temple. Of everyone present, he was the only one who could fight back against the devilish will. At the very least, he wouldn't submit completely. "You think you can escape?" Ling Xiao said, looking off into the distance. Finally, he slashed out with the devilish sword of darkness. Devilish sword of darkness. City extermination. This was a move even more powerful than divine soul extermination. It was a terrifying sword energy that could destroy an entire city. Not good. Qingqiu Lian and the others cried out in alarm as they tried to break free from the devilish will. Unfortunately, it was too late. The terrifying sword energy was like a black waterfall that streaked through the air. It was dozens of meters wide and seemingly limitless in length as it stabbed forward. There was no blood, only bits and pieces of flesh. It was as if the sword had opened a new path. Wherever the sword qi went, there was nothing left. All of the life-seizers, Qingqiu Lian included, as well as the tens of thousands of ordinary soldiers on the path of sword energy, were all killed by the sword. Only Qin Yu didn't die. Chapter 2054. The Black Tortoise Jewel's water barrier had blocked the sword for Qin Yu, and yet one of his arms had been chopped off, and his legs were crippled. Howling in pain, he plummeted to the ground. Silence. Absolute silence. It was even more shocking than when he had killed 12 life-seizers with a single sword strike. It was hundreds of times more shocking for all the soldiers of Black Raven City. This was a great surprise, a glory of excitement and bloodthirst. But to the Allied army, it was terror and despair. Roar. After a moment of silence, an earth-shattering roar rang out from Black Raven City. They were convinced that the Emperor of Heaven could single-handedly reverse the situation. Their roars were to vent the grief and indignation in their hearts, as well as to express their excitement. Before, the Allied army's commander, Qingqiu Lian, had been invincible on the battlefield. No one had been able to stop her. She had single-handedly killed hundreds of thousands of soldiers from the Heavenly Dynasty. Meng Tong and Xian had died at her hands. In front of her, they could do nothing but despair. All they could do was hide in the city and rely on the spell formations to fight back. They had been wrong, displeased, and indignant, but now everything had changed. Ling Xiao's appearance had completely changed the situation. Qingqiu Lian, who had been so arrogant and despotic, had been cut to pieces by Ling Xiao with a single sword strike. She had gotten off lightly, but in the end, she was just another person's tool. Ling Xiao swore that he would capture the queen of the Silver Fox Empire, the emperor of the Heavenly Sea Empire, and the chieftains of the Seafolk tribes. He would let them taste the most painful punishment in the world. He would let them atone for their sins to Meng Tong and Xian, atone for the hundreds of thousands of soldiers who had died. The young man who had defeated the new Devil-Sealing Empire, the Black Crow Empire, the God Phoenix Empire, and other powers, and finally unified the Dragon Phoenix continent, had once again become the main character of this era. He was the absolute hero of the battlefield. In the past, he had used schemes, but today, he would crush them with pure strength. "Those who killed my brothers will die. You will use your blood to wash away your stupidity. You will use your lives to repent for my brothers and my soldiers." On the battlefield, there was no right or wrong. Everyone had their own master, but people have feelings. Whoever was stronger would be able to avenge their family and friends. As Ling Xiao's voice rang out, Demonic sounds rang out between heaven and earth. The soldiers of the allied army covered their ears in horror and turned to flee in panic. With their commander dead, what else could they do but flee? But could he escape? Ling Zhao's killing intent had been accumulating in his heart for far too long, and it was about to erupt at this moment. "Eye of the tomb of the gods, open!" The skeleton general stepped out from the depths of the ancient tomb, followed by countless skeleton soldiers, fiercely attacking the enemy. Tri-leaf magic eyes, summon demon god Baal. A crack appeared in the otherworld space, and demon god Bar descended while stepping on lightning. Terrifying lightning struck the local camp, and countless people died as a result. Demonic purgatory, demonic dance. In the pitch-black purgatory, all kinds of demons and monsters stepped out, crazily plundering the lives of their enemies. Heaven Burning Eye, sword of slaughter, sword of destruction, sun moon sword domain. Kill, 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 kill. At this moment, Ling Xiao had completely transformed into a sinister demon. He was also a human, and his heart was filled with pain after his good brothers were killed and tortured to death. He could only use this method to vent his resentment and anger. Some people might say that if he killed these people, would his brothers be able to come back to life? Of course not. But by doing so, he could at least let his good brothers rest in peace in the afterlife. He could make his heart feel a little better. He could make an example out of them. He could teach those who tried to harm his friends and family a lesson. Whoever dared to touch his good brothers, Ling Xiao would have their entire family annihilated. Mercy? That was something that only heartless people would say. That was something that only heartless people would say. For Ling Xiao, mercy could go to hell. This was like a slaughterhouse. The soldiers of the allied army were harvested like wheat in autumn, and they fell in rows without any room for resistance. They screamed in horror, begged for help, and begged for mercy. But it was meaningless. Ling Zhao's eyes were filled with killing intent. Every time he moved forward a certain distance, he would bring endless death. The entire battlefield had become a living hell. Shang Guanhong looked on in shock and couldn't help but mutter to herself, "Is he going to slaughter 1,000,000 people all by himself? He's in pain. Only blood can numb this pain. There's no hope for the million-strong allied army. There's no hope for the Sea Folk tribes near the Dragon Phoenix continent. The Silver Fox Empire and the Sky Sea Empire will pay a heavy price for everything they've done. Perhaps only by hanging the corpses of the Sky Sea Sovereign King, the Green Hill Queen, and the Sea Folk chieftain on the walls of the Celestial Dynasty will he gradually calm down." Fan Ruahai understood Ling Zhao's feelings all too well. He had only lost a brother, and that was enough to send him into a frenzy of slaughter. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, had lost a life and death brother. It was already good enough that he hadn't gone mad. In the past, there had been a legend in the God Phoenix continent that a life-sizer from the White Tiger continent could cause rivers of blood to flow through an army of 1,000,000 people. But people thought it was just a legend. No one had ever taken such a legend seriously. But today, the soldiers of Black Raven City were witnessing something like that. A life-sizer was in the middle of a battlefield, harvesting lives with no intention of stopping. Qin Yu looked on in horror and wanted nothing more than to flee. He had assumed that with so many people surrounding Ling Xiao would die beyond the shadow of a doubt. But the bloody reality of the situation told him that he had been too naive. Ling Xiao was only in the 16th stage of life seizing, but there was no way his battle prowess was limited to that level. He was simply too strong. He wasn't someone a martial artist like Qin Yu could stand up to. Perhaps it wasn't a coincidence that Her Highness had been defeated twice by Ling Xiao. Qin Yu's right arm had been severed and his legs had been destroyed. All he could do was crawl away, hoping that the chaos of the battle would give him a chance to survive. He couldn't die. He was a genius of the Black Warrior Temple. How could he die here? No, absolutely not. Of course, the higher his expectations, the greater his disappointment. Back on the battlefield, the soldiers Ling Xiao had killed rose to their feet. black devil energy swirling around them. Their eyes were blank and lifeless. When they walked, they were like walking corpses. And yet, their hands were filled with power. Ling Xiao's three-leaf devil eyes could control living things. Controlling corpses was much easier than controlling living things. All Qin Yu had to do was infuse them with devil energy and a bit of soul power to turn them into battle prowess. Chapter 2055. The strength of Ling Xiao's soul was naturally due to the primordial spirit remnant scroll. If he had given up on cultivating this remnant scroll, he would not have today's achievements. Kill! Ling Xiao pointed his finger, and the demon corpse army charged forward fearlessly. Poor Qin Yu was trampled to death by these demon corpses. Ling Xiao took out the black tortoise orb from his body. From his hand, he took back the elemental energy thumb ring that should have belonged to him. It's mine, it's still mine. If you take something that doesn't belong to you, you will naturally bring disaster upon yourself. Ling Xiao glanced at Qin Yu's corpse indifferently and did not stop. After killing millions of the allied army, he did not intend to stop. The terrifying army stepped into the deep sea. Ling Xiao led the way. The black tortoise orb separated the sea and formed a passage to the bottom of the sea. The demon corpse army was behind him. The skeleton general and demon god Bar were on his left and right. Behind the demon corpse army was the army of Black Raven City, led by Fan Ruohai and Shang Guanhong. They also wanted revenge. Their chests were full of anger and hatred, and they also needed to vent. 2 hours later, the army arrived at the Sea Race tribe. However, there was no one here. The entire tribe was covered by a blue light. It emitted an incomparably terrifying aura. Humph! No wonder this Sea Race tribe dared to invade my Heavenly Dynasty empire. It turns out that they thought they had the help of a formation expert and set up a fierce formation here. Ling Xiao looked at all this indifferently, and the corner of his mouth raised into a sneer. Formation he liked it the most. His footsteps did not stop, and the huge demon hand directly grabbed the light shield. Then, the light shield of the formation was torn apart. In the face of powerful strength, any formation was fragile. Just like Qin Yu could destroy the defensive formation of Black Raven City, Ling Xiao could naturally destroy a formation that was far less powerful than him. Kill! A gap was torn in the formation. Ling Xiao waved his hand, and the demon corpse army madly rushed in. Roar! Although a gap was torn in the formation, it still had some effect. The array was activated, and a terrifying deep-sea beast rushed out. These giant beasts were condensed from the terrifying power of the sea. At a glance, one could tell that they were set up by experts. This was definitely not something that this barbaric Sea Race tribe could do. The terrifying giant beast swallowed tens of thousands of demon corpses in one gulp. Ling Xiao couldn't help but sneer. Can you digest them after swallowing them? With a thought from Ling Xiao, the tens of thousands of demonic corpses exploded. In any case, these demon corpses were originally the corpses of the allied army, so Ling Xiao was not stingy at all to let their corpses be of some use at this time. The terrifying explosion blasted the giant beast into pieces. Ling Xiao released the black tortoise orb, absorbing all the power of the sea. Keep blasting. Since you treated my brother's body so cruelly, I'll do whatever I want with your bodies. Another tens of thousands of demonic corpses exploded, and the huge array formation stopped operating amidst the continuous explosions. The azure light barrier finally disappeared completely. Advance! Ling Xiao gave the order with a gloomy look, and the army continued to advance. The array was broken, but there were many exotic beasts in the deep sea that were raised by the Sea Race tribe. At this time they rushed out, seemingly wanting to obstruct Ling Xiao's advance. It seems that these people want to escape. Ling Xiao sneered and released a violent demonic qi again, and the originally slow-moving demon corpses suddenly sped up. When the deep-sea exotic beasts encountered the demon corpse army, It was like a snake encountering a terrifying army of termites. In just an instant, all the deep-sea exotic beasts were killed. The demon corpse army only lost over 1,000 demon corpses. A few minutes later, Ling Xiao saw a dense battle array in front of him. It turned out that the Sea Race Tribe's people were all gathered here and arranged a battle array here. On the other side, a transmission array had been half completed and was still in the process of being repaired. Want to escape? Ridiculous! You killed my brother. Even if you run to the ends of the earth, you will die without a doubt. Ling Xiao waved his hand, and a terrifying crimson sun all shot out of the water, destroying the half-completed transmission array. The hundreds of thousands of sea folk cultivators all looked over at Ling Xiao in terror. Their leader appeared in front of the battle array, and from his cultivation base, he was in the 3rd stage of life seizing. And that wasn't even mentioning him. With a cultivation base like this, you dare to rebel. Yang Qi said coldly, "Back then, I didn't exterminate the sea folk. Instead, I took in a lot of sea folk martial artists. They all lived happily in the Heavenly Dynasty Empire. And yet, you bastards didn't even spare their lives. Fine. Since you want to fight and kill, I'll fulfill your wish. You'll get what you ask for." Ling Xiao's voice was as cold as ice. Ling Xiao's expression was as cold as ice. A terrifying aura pulsed from him, making him seem like a devil king who had come to collect a debt of blood. "Kill them," he said, waving his hand. The demon corpse army charged forward and the slaughter began. The demon corpse army didn't have any emotions to speak of. Their only goal was to follow Ling Xiao's orders and carry them out. Slaughter! Slaughter like mad. As of this moment, Ling Xiao had cast aside his compassion and turned himself into a true fiend devil. After all, when he saw the sea folk commoners, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to kill them. Therefore, he used his devil energy to numb himself so that he would forget about compassion. These were the people who had slaughtered his people. They had slaughtered his people. They had slaughtered his brothers and sisters. He couldn't forgive them just because they were commoners. Otherwise, the vengeful souls who had died at the hands of these people wouldn't be satisfied. Miserable shrieks echoed out from the depths of the sea. Ling Xiao looked on coldly, his face expressionless. "No." Yang Qi said, "We surrender. We surrender. Please, I beg of you, don't kill us. Leave us some hope." The chief of the sea folk tribe dropped to his knees in terror. Ling Xiao had intentionally spared his life, allowing him to experience all the pain and suffering he had to endure. Hope? Give you the hope of rebelling? Or hope for vengeance? Ling Xiao sneered. "When you were stirring up trouble in the Heavenly Empire, you should have known that this day would come. Since you've done it, you should have calmly faced this hopeless situation. Now that you're crying and making a ruckus, do you think you're a man? You're simply a coward." "I regret it. I regret it. I was only bewitched by the Tianhai Empire. I was only bewitched by others." The chief of the sea folk tribe continued to madly shout. "Bewitched? That means you don't fear me enough. That means you also have the same thoughts. You believe that if you don't listen to them, you'll die. But you never imagined that if you act against me, not only will you die, you'll die an even more miserable death." Ling Xiao scornfully looked at this person, his eyes as cold as ever.